Good morning, good afternoon and good evening wherever you're watching the live stream from, and a very warm welcome to Lake Garda. We're here for the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships. I'm Olympic sailing coach Jon Emmett and I'm joined by Olympic gold medalist Li Shu.
Hello, I'm Li Jia, three-time Olympian in the Yoke 6 class. We're very happy to see the wind is kicking in. We're sure we'll bring you some live action on the water.
But yesterday it was a day for patience with some of the classes racing late into the evening. Let's check out all the highlights.
A bit calmer on day 3 here in Lake Garda for the 53rd Youth Sailing World Championships. We were meant to cover the kite foiler, but unfortunately the wind is a little light and there are many AP flags held ashore. However, we still have some actions in some classes. Let's have a look. In the men's and mixed skiff class, the gap between the leader of British and Poland has closed significantly as Britain secured a win in race 9.
Pretty puffed out. It's quite warm out here in Italy. Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, for the past 2 days it's been pretty solid. Like the aura's come in at the right time. Today had a bit of a delay, so the aura's not as strong as it has been. But it's been quite up and down. The breeze has been coming through, going and then staying. So hopefully it can stay for the girls now. But yeah, it's good racing.
In the men's and mixed double-handed dinghy, the USA boat have made huge gains after securing a race win today, moving from 16 at the beginning of the series to the 8th overall now. However, with consistent performance, Italy still sit in the leaderboard.
Victory of the regatta.
And how does that feel?
Feels great. We've been working hard to finally get one, and after the 3rd day we got it finally. Yeah, it's super hard. It's like pretty random, I felt, so we just kind of had to work our way through the fleet the last race.
That's it for today. The forecast for tomorrow is solid wind and some rain on Friday, so pressure is on for those young sailors to perform well tomorrow on Thursday. And remember, we have live streaming on every single day of this championship. So do follow us on World Sailing and Fifth social media channel. See you there.
Welcome back to stunning Lake Garda. We're here for the penultimate day of competition. If you're watching on the FIV or World Sailing YouTube channel, please do share the link so your friends can join us live as well. Yesterday it was a day for patience, but today it was an early start for some, with the windsurfers making the most of the morning northerly breeze. Let's check out the action. As you can see, we had fantastic racing in the northerly conditions, surprisingly fresh breeze, and it looks like the Italians are doing really well in windsurfing, just like some of the other classes. I think we can have a look at the overall standings.
Yeah, so far it is the Italian Federazione leading with 19 points. Oh, that's a huge point gap, followed by American Macani, and then sitting in the third place is Ramon from Spanish. And then let's have a look of the women's rankings. Again, Italian Carola is leading the females group with only 12 points, followed by Darcy Sean from Great Britain, and then Sofia from Finland.
Today we're going to have a live focus on the two-person classes. That's the 420 and the 29er. And we had a quick chance to catch up with some of the sailors fresh from the water yesterday.
How was your day of sailing?
Today it was okay. It was lighter wind, so we did better than heavier winds.
It was really hard. We had a good start, but the wind shifted at the upwind and we were on the wrong side, so it was a hard day. Good!
We had very light wind, light breeze, and we launched late, but we had a good race, so we're happy. Yeah, we only had one race, so yeah, it was
A long wait.
yeah.
And
Yeah, on land. So maybe we was a bit tired, and it was not a lot of wind, and yeah, quite like gusts on the water. So yeah, the only thing I think was to find the gusts, and yeah,
it was really tricky.
yeah, and really hard to predict.
It was pretty bad.
Pretty tricky.
We saw the right working, but I wanted to try out the left, and it didn't quite go as planned, but still managed to finish in an alright position. Hopefully we can do better tomorrow with the more wind. We like the wind.
Yeah, we like that.
It's pretty light today. Didn't love that.
It was okay. Like, it was a pretty rough day. Like, the wind was shifting a lot, but we did like 12, 11. Yeah.
Like it was like really easy. I think the start because we had like
The fleet was like way down in the line.
so we got a good position in the race in the start. So that was good for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
It was really tricky because we did a port start. It was really good. Then the wind shifted and we were behind the whole other boats. Yes, it was a bit tricky.
Yes. And then we went another time on the wrong side, so it wasn't that good. But there's a lot of more potential, I think.
And how would you describe your day in one word?
Tricky.
Tricky, yes. Shifty.
Yeah,
And,
wait.
hot. Really hot.
Tricky.
Calm.
Tough.
Yeah.
Difficult. Yeah.
Fun.
As we can see, after yesterday's light condition, there are some ups and downs, some big scores on the results. So it's really a test for an all-round sailor. So next, let's have a look of the rankings for the men's and mixed two-person dinghy. Again, Italian leading the fleet with only 12 points, so they have 16 points gap to the second, which is the French pair. Sitting in the third is the Switzerland with 13 points total. And then in the women's two-person dinghy, currently again it's the reigning world and European champion from Greece leading the fleet with only 5 points, very consistent performance so far, followed by Italian with 19 points and then Spanish 20 points. Still a lot to play in this fleet.
So welcome back to the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships in the two-person dinghy. It looks like the championships could be decided today. You'll be pleased to know that if I look behind me, the southerly breeze has finally reached the shoreline, so there's going to be some fantastic racing today. We're here in the north of Lake Garda, where the lake narrows, and that's why we get that better southerly wind up to 350 metres deep here. So we're just so pleased that the wind arrived on schedule, and we're going to be starting off with the 420s. Okay, so we have the leaders' interviews.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Good morning, we're here with Team Italy, current leader, very leading with a lot of points ahead. How are you feeling so far with such a big advantage going into today's racing day?
Yes, we have a pretty good advantage. Now today we have the 2 races to sail, and we will keep the concentration and the mindset to keep the advantage as good as possible as we can.
Amazing. So the conditions for tomorrow are a little bit tricky. A little bit patchy, we don't know what's gonna happen. Seems like today is the final day. How are you going into this final day with that idea in mind?
So first of all, you never know, so we could still race tomorrow, and so today we will try to remain focused and try our best and do the best as possible and try to keep this advantage.
Perfect. Good luck, guys, and enjoy. All right, girls, so you're leading with a very big advantage. How are you feeling so far about this event?
We are very happy about it because the Youth World Championship is the only championship we haven't won yet. So that's been our target for the whole year, and we're really happy we can achieve this finally. And it's also our very last year sailing for 20 together, so it will be a happy ending.
Ah, that sounds amazing, beautiful. So for tomorrow, the forecasts are looking a little bit ditchy. We don't know yet what's going to happen, so could be that today is the final day of racing. Knowing that, with which mindset are you going into today's races?
Our mindset never changes. We always are focused on the sailing and not on the results. We'll do the best we can do, and we don't care if the championship finishes today or tomorrow. It's the same for us.
Amazing. Good luck then, girls, and enjoy.
Thank you.
We now join the live racing, and you can see the Greek duo going upwind. They look like a typical two-man boat team where you have the larger person as the crew on the trapeze, getting that weight out as much as possible, and they're almost fully extended. It's beautiful surroundings here in Lake Garda. A lot of high land. In fact, the highest mountain is well over 300 metres high, and it just means as the southerly wind approaches, it lifts up and over that mountains. But shortly before we went to air, the breeze finally filled in all the way to the land, and it looks like good racing here. You'll notice that the sailors are working hard to keep up to maximum speed, and the Greeks just put in attack as they come up towards the windward mark, and it's been a dominant performance so far. It's also worth noting this is not only an individual competition, but it's very much a team competition. Just like at the Olympic Games, there's a competition to see who could be the top sailing nation, and I think so far the Italians, as the home nation, have really put down the gauntlet to take home that nation's trophy.
Yeah, Greece has won the Athens Olympics in 2004, so they are following the former Olympian. It must be inspiring those so much. For the 420 fleet, the female two-person dinghy is actually first introduced in 1992 in Villamora. And then let's have a look of the nations ranking. Wow. As I anticipated, Italy is top the board now with Great Britain in second and France in third. Nations ranking is awarded to the nation that has the best performance across all 11 events. Back to 420, we are approaching the windward mark.
Final tack coming in soon for that ley line, and I think the Greeks will just take the opportunity to put a little bit of hurt on that second boat. We saw this on the 29ers, and you almost saw they complete the tack, put the bow down, and that dirty air just hit the German sail. Yeah. And actually the bouncing, the flicking of the leech, they're literally throwing dirty air back, and it's not just slower wind, the dirty wind, because it's coming off the leech of the sail, it's effectively a header. And by opening up that little gap at the windward mark, they've just got that space to breathe downwind. And I should tell you at home, this is the final downwind to the finish, so they're probably just going to protect that leeward mark rounding and take another race win.
Yeah, in this fleet, they actually have 19 boats in total, and then we may well have an early decider for the gold and podium finish today after 3 races are scheduled for the female two-person dinghy. And there must be plenty of wind since they are now allowed for Rule 42.
Yes, so Oscar flag is shown, so they're really working very, very hard now. And you can see it's surprisingly bumpy considering the southerly breeze has only come in. Pretty close tap there with Portugal, but no crime, no foul. And that's always the danger when approaching the windward mark on the port ley line if there's boats coming downwind on the starboard tack, who obviously have the right of way. We're here looking at the symmetrical spinnakers, so they're going to be sailing a deeper, lower angle than the skiff classes that we will see later. And Lily recently mentioned that the deciding race may happen today for the female teams, but it might also happen for the mixed. In fact, it looks highly likely.
Yeah, have a look of the men's and mixed fleet. If the Italian sail another race in the first or second place, they win these championships.
So what do you think their tactics are going to be with so little to do?
But I think they will still sail their own races, still 3 races to go, and then securing top 2 is not such an easy task.
Oh, it's never easy, but probably today in some respects, if you're fast, is going to be easier than previous days. The wind not quite as patchy. If we look behind me, I can see that we've got a little bit more blue sky. That cloud opened and there wasn't any rain, and hence the situation we have now, significantly stronger breeze, and I expect it to increase a little bit as we go on throughout the day. For those just joining us, today we're covering the skiff and two-person boats, and if you're enjoying the content, please do give us a like on YouTube, because it just helps get the video out there. That stat which just flagged up, a little optimistic. I'd say that looks like 12 knots to me, but the coaches always underestimate the wind strength, don't we?
As the left bottom screen showed earlier, now we have 12 to 14 knots of wind. The wind is still building. We may even have some more. And then after this race, the female will have another race to go.
So a quick recap for people just joining us. Yesterday was definitely a day for patience, so it wasn't a full schedule of races, which meant an early start for the windsurfers this morning, and they have got their racing done and dusted in the northerly breeze. It's now almost completely the opposite with the southerly breeze coming, and it's blowing directly onshore to where we are. The wind is just rising slightly over the land, so it's slightly windier at the top of the course than it is the bottom, and today is probably another day where pressure is king, especially for those trapeze boats.
As we can see from the Greek boat, actually it's pretty physical for both crew and helm. See how much movement they're doing now, pumping the sail, one sheeting spinnaker, one sheeting the mainsail.
With a 200-meter leader. 200-meter lead. That leader is certainly not relaxing on the laurels, and I think it does a lot for your confidence to really extend when you get the opportunity, and it throws the ball down. just looking ahead, you can see that they've got one more jibe to go to the finish, and that after this we will also be covering the skiff class later today. So sorry we didn't manage to cover the kites yesterday. The racing was done very late in the day, but we do have some spectacular footage, and a big shout out here to the media team, who have great wind awareness and have been able to get us some amazing shots. Makes it very easy to commentate, and you can just see the distance the leader has opened up. And I've got to be honest, I mean, there's no such thing as a comfortable lead, but that looks fairly relaxing.
Very convincing, very convincing. This pair actually won a bronze medal last year in Brazil. So, and then they are now current world champion, European champion. So they are really, really looking forward to become the champion on this Italian water.
And I think I said it before, but I'll say it again. You know, these names and these faces you see now, there's a really good chance you're going to see them in the next 5, 10, 20 years as full-time sailors, Olympians, professional sailors. And it's so important with that sail development, the ability to race under pressure. And I think there's a lot more going on with the Olympic sailing than you expect. So the big sister is the 470, which is the Olympic class.
Yeah, and then looking at those big names who's been winning the 420 in the past is like Joe Allais, Hannah Mills, Martin Grill, Kahina Combs. And then in the men's is Luke Patience, Matt Batchelor, Nathan Outrage, and even Peter Burling sailed 420 before 29er, before 49er.
Yes, he did an Olympics in 470. I think not people
in
forget that.
2008 as a crew, and then later become a helm.
I mean, I just think sailing is absolutely a sport for life. This Greek pair doing a fantastic job. It's interesting that they can have so much focus forwards, just looking at the waves, and that's the difference between them and the foiling boats. I do hope we get the chance to have a little look at the kites, because foiling is just another skill set, and actually it translates quite well now to the professional sailing when we look at just how fast Sail GP and AC boats go. And you'll be surprised that they still get faster and faster. So the new equipment for the next Olympic cycle and the next youth events will be even faster. Don't be surprised to see kites crossing the finishing line at 40 plus knots. In fact, you probably have to enjoy being scared.
Actually, I would say now is a golden era for female sailors, because not only Olympics and our sport of sailing is leading the role in gender equity, but also in the professional sailing circuit. They are also bringing lots of extra opportunity for female sailors to join. Like the AC America's Cup, we'll have the Women's Cup for the first time, and then we have the Youth Cup very soon. And then Sail GP, every single boat now has a helm strategist.
Well, I'm just looking at the Greek pair just extend their lead, really good speed. The issue when you look at the speed is that just tells you how fast they're going. What I can see is the Greeks are able to sail really, really low here, so they're making excellent VMG. And yeah, the future's definitely bright for female sailing. There's plenty of high performance teams looking for lightweight tacticians, lightweight helmsperson. I don't like to use the word driver, but yeah, I think it's just great to see them working so well together. And going forward, this is a team definitely to look for the future. As you said, so many other top teams have come through the Youth Sailing World Championships.
Yeah, just a little bit background for this dinghy. So, two-person dinghy 420. The name comes from its length of the hull. So it's 4.2 meters long, so that's why it's called 420. And then you can understand and know what 470 means. And then it has a mainsail area of 7.4 square meter. And the jib is 2.8 and spinnaker 9 square meter.
So this is the reach to the finish. You can see how the helm is making it as easy as possible for the crew to extend. So actually the crew could drop down and straighten the legs to put that power into the mast. And as it goes a little bit soft, there's a few pumps going in there. And despite all the movement on the crew, the boat balance is almost perfect with that constant flat boat keeping it driving forward. And as always, the top sailors make it look easy, but hats off to the Greek team. This is a relatively underpower boat, the 420. So you see, the windier it gets, the faster it goes. And a lot of teams said when we talked to them yesterday, they're looking forward to a bit more breeze. Just going back to the kites for a while, there will be a little bit of change of equipment to help the female sailors, so the kite sizes will be reduced for the next cycle.
Here we go. The Greek secured another win in race 6. The gap between them and the boat behind is getting bigger and bigger.
Well, I think often at the beginning of the day when the pressure's coming in, the rich get richer because they can sail exactly the course they want, purely because there's no dirty air affecting them. And if they make the right decisions, which obviously the Greek girls did, then wow, they can just extend because they're first into pressure. So I think these young women have a bright future, and I'm wondering if there's a possibility we can pick them up for a quick chat. Always keen to hear what they have to say. And I think we've got plenty of time before the next race. For those just joining us, if you're enjoying the content, please do drop us a comment. Tell us what you like. And if you're not enjoying the content, please tell us what you would like. And we'll do our best.
In this championship, actually, so long as we have 8 races or more, we will discard 2 worst results. Meaning in the next race, actually, if the Greek pair sail a reasonable race, they will secure this championship.
So can we expect to see them sail over to their coach to do the maths for them?
Yeah. So just one more consistent race, they will be crowned as 2024 Youth Sailing World Champion in the 2-person dinghy.
Well, I don't know about you, Lily, but this championship seems to fly by. I just can't quite believe tomorrow is the final day. In fact, I should probably start thinking about the closing ceremony, but that's something else. I would say to any of the sailors who are competing in this event and watching it in replay, I mean, do treasure this moment. It's very, very special event, and it's one that you can only do very few times in your life. In terms of the 420 dinghy, the most golds to beat was 4 by Sally Cuthbert from GBR, and I don't think that's ever going to be beaten again.
Yeah, and yesterday I posted a throwback post about the youth championship I did in 2005, and I realized that actually in that year, not only Paige Rayleigh and Alison Young in my group, in my fleet, that carry on to win the world champion in this class. Adult world champion, not just youth world champion. And also we had Giles Scott winning the Ilka 6, and Jean Baptiste from France getting second. He's also a laser Ilka 7 world champion now. So many big names. It's almost feel this championship is like a cradle for future champions, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's just the ability to perform under pressure, and it doesn't matter if you're on a really slow boat like an Ilka and you're just meters apart, or you're in the kites and you're huge distance apart. The close racing, they're just seconds apart. Here's the results.
So currently the reigning world champion, European champion Greek duo is leading. Oh, so this is for this race. Yeah, they won the race, and then Germany got a second and Turkish got a third.
And the interesting thing will be to have a quick chat and see how they're feeling now.
Let's have a look.
Hi, Greta.
Congratulations for another victory. Please give us some insights from the race course.
So yeah, we had a really good start, so then it was really easy to be first at the first mark. We did the basics actually, and then when the Oscar flag was up, it was really good for us because we're really good at rocking the boat and rolling. So yeah, it was an easy win, and we really enjoyed it.
That sounds amazing. Can you give us some insights of the wind as well, please, because it looks quite light?
Well, actually, it's not that light now. It's going up. So that's good. We have to do 3 races, so we want the wind. And yeah, it's really nice.
Perfect. Congratulations. Well done, and continue like this.
Thank you.
Ciao.
So, just an amazing team there. And I have to say to Greta, it can't be that light or they wouldn't put up an Oscar flag. But just a quick recap. I'm Jon Emmett from the UK. I'm joined by Lily from China. And what we've got here is the next race recap. Sorry, the previous race recap, which was sailed under Oscar flag. Now, in sailing, we have a rule called Rule 42, which basically is about how we sail the boat. And it's strange because it's actually applied in 3 completely different ways. So you can only propel the boat by sailing, and Rule 42 counts all the time in the Ilka dinghy. In the 420 we see here, it applies up to the wind range that they fly Oscar, which is this sort of around 12 knots, I believe. And that rule has been changed between the 420 and the 470, and also it's a judgment because that wind speed needs to be across the course. So when they put up the Oscar flag, you can then rock, roll, pump, hooch as much as possible. And it's not only the subtle sheeting movements we see, you can actually see the crew are moving forward and back with the waves. And then you have the kite surfing, where actually they're never going to be applying Rule 42. They can work as hard as they want, and if you look at the IQ foil, you see after nearly every manoeuvre they have to do quite a lot of pumping to get up to warp factor 9. But this was a really, really good display by the Greek pairing, and they look pretty happy, pretty relaxed.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you always look happy after you win a race.
Actually, they rounded the first mark in the 2nd position, so they must have caught up in the downwind or the following.
It looks like they jibe to separate. So when the wind first fills in, it actually came in along the shoreline to the left, but we do tend to have that rightward trend. The 29ers, that's the 2-person skiff, they're also out racing on another course, and the proximity to the land, especially when the land is as high as beautiful Garda, makes a big difference.
At this point, the Greek pair has already overtaken Germany. Wow. They must have a huge speed advantage in the downwind leg.
Well, I think good boat speed makes you a tactical genius, but also it's still very much get your head out the boat. Here, choosing the gate, it's actually a very wide gate. Yeah. So the rules for rounding a mark come in at 3 hull lengths. So that's important. It's hull, not any of the appendices. And the idea is that they must be at least 7 hull lengths apart, otherwise you could have people being asked for room from both sides. But yeah, fantastic job by the Greeks, and they will be just working as hard as they can, even when they have a lead, to show the dominance to the rest of the fleet.
With the close shots, we can actually see the crew is pumping so hard with both hands on her side to help her, instead of keeping one hand holding the trapeze.
Well, the idea here really is you're flicking the rig to propel you forward, and you need really good core strength. And we talked about this earlier, and there's at least 2 reasons. One, that the stronger your core, the faster you'll go. But 2, it prevents injury, because if you don't have a strong core, your back is liable to have. Just think about a mast. You need a well-supported mast so it doesn't snap. Well, your back needs to be supported by those core muscles. And the girls, they were just working as hard as they could all the way downwind. So these young women sailors, they've definitely got a bright future and the best possible attitude.
Yeah. And then it looks like on the 2nd bit, actually Greeks just sail together with the Germany boat, lose cover and sail in the same direction.
There was tight cover coming into that windward mark, which is exactly what we saw in the skiffs yesterday with the Brit, just putting a little bit of her on the rival to extend and just make it easier for the downwind. But they look happy and relaxed, and we've just been joined by a dog
during
in
the
studio.
Downwind leg, they again extended their lead. Wow, really, having a downwind advantage will make your life so much easier. So even if you have a bad start or bad first upwind, there's still plenty to play, and 2 downwind you can catch up many boats.
Well, we're just... So one of the big things about sailing is it really is a sport for life. There's people I know who are actively racing in their 80s, and a very big part of our sport is the Paralympics. And I was incredibly sad when it was removed after Rio, and I think it's really worth just talking to some of the Paralympians and how sailing has changed their life.
My name is Nina and I'm a parasailing athlete. I sail in the Hansa 303 class, and I can say that it's a really wonderful class full of beautiful people.
I'm Alessandra Franchi, I'm from Italy, Tuscany, and it's from November that I sailing. It's super exciting. It's an honor for me to be here. It's my first time in Riva del Garda, so it's great. I was a sport person before my accident, so it's important to me.
I started a year ago thanks to a school course that instantly made me fall in love with the sailing world.
We have the opportunity to stay in one of the most important regatta, youth regatta, and so it's really good for all of us, so coaches and athletes, because this is a very good opportunity to show what means inclusion.
One of my biggest goals on the future is to win an important sailing races, maybe a world sailing, but that's a big dream I'm going to work on.
My goal is to become an international sailor.
Parasailing Academy is a trailer sports center, so we move around Italy. We are guests of the Federation clubs, local clubs, and we try to grow the sensibility for these sports, because we believe that sailing is one of the most inclusive sports.
We are Parasailing Team!
Well, you can just hear how much sailing means to everybody, and I think that's something we can chat about. And your experiences, Lily, you're a role model for an awful lot of people. These young people, they're probably looking ahead and seeing what's around the corner in terms of Olympic sailing, and probably the most natural progression is to the Olympic 470 dinghy.
The 470 is the two-person mixed dinghy that will be competing at the Paris Olympics. Germany's Anna Markfort and Simon Diesch introduce us to the longest-serving boat in the current Olympic fleet.
The 470 has been in the Olympic Games since 1976, but this time around we are sailing mixed, so that is going to be a complete new challenge.
The 470 dinghy is 4.70 meters long, it's 1.68 meters wide, and the total sail area is 25.7 square meters. I'm helming the boat, which does actually mean I'm more or less deciding where we're going, and I'm also trimming the main sail.
I am the crew, which means that I'm out in the trapeze being the leverage of the boat. I make sure we don't capsize or flip. Next to that, I'm also trimming the jib, which is the small sail in the front, and when we're going downwind we also have the third sail called spinnaker, which is also my role to trim.
The 470 class is very special because you A, have to sail your boat pretty quickly, you B, sailing in combination with another teammate on board, and C, the boat is still pretty tactical. It's a little bit like chess on the water, as our maneuvers are quite quickly done.
We have a rule that allows us to pump, so we can unhook in the trapeze and use our arms at full length, and going downwind we can stand up and jump out again to just pull the boat straight, so it's really physical. The 470k.
So we're actually coming up to start time now, so if you look, we're 30 seconds to go. We've talked about this before, that it's actually these final few seconds that are absolutely crucial to a good race. Now, a lot of coaches will sit here and say 70% of the race is the start, and my answer to that is 43% of statistics are made up on the spot. But it's definitely important, and it's surprising to see that there's such a big line sag.
Ooh.
Now, the favourites Greek have all the room in the world, and the reason you want that leeward space, it makes it easier to accelerate. I do wonder if Argentina were over, it was a U flag start, so if they were over in the 1 minute, they were over. But the beauty with starting where Greece are, if they were a little bit behind the line or a little bit behind start time, then actually they were able to bear away and keep clean wind. And you can see the crew is just, well, they're both working super hard, but it's very obvious that the crew is working super hard, and they're actually going higher and faster than the boats around them. They're already putting the hurt on New Zealand, and Germany may even struggle to live there. So the 420, this is the two-person dinghy. This is the youth women's class here. It's very much a case of putting the bow down and making the boat go faster to get that crew out. Once they're out, they can actually sail upwind at good VMG with a wide variety of angle. But here you can see there's just two tiers. The boats that had a good start are cracking on starboard, and it's only the boats who got rolled who are now going to the right.
I tried to see whether the windward end or ping end is more favored, because the pack seems to be among the windward end, which is the committee boat, but our leader is choosing to start by the ping, or maybe because she has a good speed advantage and then she just going to bow down and then kill everybody. But also you can see how dominant she is. Nobody wants to start close to them.
I mean, it definitely makes your life easier if you get a reputation as a good starter, because then people won't start next to you.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to get a good start, and so on and so forth. I do think as we get later on in the afternoon that the right-hand side is often better, but we'll see how this all pans out. Certainly the Greek girls are not in a position to tack anyway. The situation, as I said, is normally the right-hand side later on would be slightly better, but they're not going to tack and duck the fleet now, so they're just going to focus on going as fast as they possibly can. And it's also interesting that with the starting here, that the fleet is so close together, and there's some boats who are sat in dirty air, perhaps the Italians or whatever, and they're still choosing to sit there.
Ooh, the helm is rocking together with her crew.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, crikey, there's a winger there. These guys are taking their life in their hands by being on that race course. But I do think that the right-hand side was slightly better as they're just getting lifted up a little bit. But there's lots more racing to go, and the fleet is super, super tight together.
So it will be quite challenging for the leader Greek boat to make the next decision whether to... I'm sure they will sail to the left ley line, but whether to duck a few boats or overlay a little bit.
Well, the interesting thing, this race course, as we're looking upwind, is actually quite a long way to the left. So the land effect is actually on the left. It's whether they can get close enough to that wind bend, which we will see. So again, we could see the whole fleet coming in more or less on that port ley line. And it's really important to have that clear lane. So you may see the boats which are slightly further back overstanding, just to keep that clean air. And Oscar flag is obviously there, and you'll see that the boats at the front of the fleet will probably be the hardest working ones.
Yeah, after the start we could see boats more or less all together, but actually after a few minutes the speed advantage really start to appear. And
well, the rich get richer, because all things being equal, if they come off the start line in good shape, they have a clear lane and they can sail at the exact angle that they want to. And I just think the boats that were dirty air in that first 30 seconds, it's better to bite the bullet and take a loss and a little duck. So you avoid the long, slow loss of sitting there in dirty air. I also do feel slightly worried for these wingers and windsurfers who are on the course, but hopefully they're all okay. In fact, you can see in the background the people on the beach, and our studio is in the IQ Foil boat park. So I think if we wave, we're too far away to see us, but we're just there. And if I look over my shoulder, the racing feels really close to home, and you can probably hear the tinging in the background as the wind is increasing and the various halyards are making some noise. But the Greek boat gradually coming up the order, but Spain does look good.
Actually, it feels like the wind has turned to right, and then the Greek is no longer in that favored position.
Well, I think at the moment Spain is just giving the hurt to the Greek boat, because they could sail a little bit high and just keep them from getting the optimum speed. And the reason for that is Spain will want to attack when they want to, and they don't want to be taken over the ley line by Croatia. So Israel was the first to go, followed by, sorry, I was struggling to see there, Croatia, who's fortunately just above the winger, and it looks like the Spanish boat and the German boat are continuing right into the shoreline, right into that high land to try and get the lift out.
So the Greek boat has been overtaken, like really just killing straight line speed by the Germany boat.
Yeah, Germany's just going into a bit of a soft patch now, and I think pressure is so important in these marginal flat trapezing conditions. So you actually want to tack before you get to that situation. So if you look now at the boats on the right hand side, they're fully powered up. The boats on the left just in a little bit lighter pressure as they've gone into that shoreline where there's slightly less wind, as well as the occasional wind foiler.
Yeah, let's see whether the left hand side boat get these land effect, get these wind bend, because also we need to take into consideration is where the ley line is, but I think it's pretty close to the windward mark ley line already. So
those trapeze boats, they're somewhere in the middle in terms of manoeuvring, so they won't lose as much as the mixed multi-hull, but they will lose more for tack and jibe than, say, the single-handed dinghy. One of the interesting things with the kites and the IQ foils, that they're so fast, you need to think very much where you're going to be exiting the tack or jibe and make an appropriate rounding, whereas for something like an Ilka 6, where you start attack and where you end attack is very similar place. So you've got the Israel boat on the far right here, and it's quite a big fleet split, and I think coming up to top mark you see the boats converge, and that's when there's a lot of opportunity for place changing.
Yeah, in this two-person female fleet we have 19 boats in total, and as we mentioned earlier, this fleet has been introduced to the Youth Sailing World Championship since 1992.
So Spain now tacking underneath. I say it's very important just to stay in the pressure here. The idea is to be looking for those darker patches on the water. We're not into that 16 knots yet where we have the white horses we saw in previous days, but we are going to be looking very much at keeping the crews fully extended. I actually like the position where Japan is in, just on the right hand side, just taking a little bit more leverage, because sometimes to go a long way is actually not a high risk maneuver if you're confident that's the way to go. And this is especially true of pressure. So I just want to talk about pressure just for one moment. So a gust is when you have an area of increased wind travelling down the course. Pressure is where you've got topographical effect, so you've just got more wind in an area. I think most people understand how you can have a lull in an area. So if you stand behind a building on a windy day, you get sheltered from the wind. But the opposite is true. If you stand between a gap between two buildings, which is effectively what Lake Garda is, you get that squirt effect and a little bit more wind. But all of a sudden Japan seems to have come out of the pressure, and they're tacking back to the right, because as we get further away from the shoreline, the wind is lighter, and that's why that final approach to the windward mark is so crucial. So if I was Japan, actually the safest thing is to sail your own race and to stay in the pressure. And by that I mean, as soon as you feel that you're running out of pressure, you need to do something about it. Don't wait for that boat speed to come off all the way. So I think the Greek boats made it really hard for themselves, getting stuck on that left-hand side, and you can see from this glorious overhead shot there's a big difference in the wind across the course.
Yeah, Japan is another strong nation for two-person dinghy. They've won the world champions. The fact that the female 470, it is the Japanese who won the world championship mixed, who won the world championship last year in The Hague. And then they've won so many worlds as well as Olympic medals. And then at this junction, they just have this freedom to catch the shift a little bit more, and then still got the freedom to tag on shifts, whereas those left-packed boats, they just run out of option.
I mean, if you look even further to the right-hand side, you can just see there's more and more wind. That's actually off their course, so to speak. But I think the safe thing is to go very slightly over the ley line to make sure there's no chance you're going to need to do a double tack, and you just stay in that pressure. And you also put that hurt on your rivals, because as the leader, if you overstand the mark by maybe 1 or 2 boat lengths, it means all your rivals have to do so too, to have clean air, or maybe they have to extend it even more. And that's why the rich just get richer. So I think they will probably be keeping, this is the Japanese, keeping a close eye on the Italians and maybe trying to put a little bit of hurt coming into windward mark. Also has to be said, especially in the upper wind range, the more space you give yourself at the windward mark, the easier it is to do a good rounding. And by that I mean, if you're overstanding by just half a boat length, it's much easier to do a good mark rounding than if you have to pinch up. So coming up to the windward mark now, it looks like pretty bow down, full speed, and just trying to get the hull up and planing, and they have a clear advantage over the chasing pack.
Yeah, obviously in this race, in the first lap, the right-hand side is more favored, and then I guess there must be a pretty big right-hand side shift.
For me, it just looked like there was more pressure. I'm not sure why the Japanese came across. I think they probably opened the door to Italy, who carried on. Sometimes just keeping it simple and minimising manoeuvres is the way to go. So they don't lose nearly as much as, for example, the mixed multi-hull, but every manoeuvre, however good you are, does hurt a little bit. So I think the Italian boat at the moment is extending, but it starts becoming slightly higher risk when you get that much separation from the fleet. But you can see there's big differences in wind speed across the water, and you wouldn't want to be in the left-hand side in that lull.
Yeah, those water beneath the windward mark, which is on the left side of the screen, it does look a bit lighter. But at this moment, Japan's still in a very good pressure.
It looks a little bit like a lift. It's always hard to tell whether boats are sailing in more pressure or it's a lift, because sometimes you can get a header and more pressure. You carry on sailing the same angle and you don't notice. But I think they've done a good job, and they just try to keep it safe by covering the fleet and centralising when they had the opportunity. And I think that was probably a race-winning move.
Yeah, this position allows them to play the oscillation shift so much better than the others. So if you're on the left or if you're on the right, you have less opportunity to tack otherwise. Whereas where the Japanese is, well, they could tack as anywhere as they want to.
Well, Italy's on a huge header in relation to the average wind direction, and we can see the yellow bibs of the Greeks. They look very much middle of the field, and it'll be interesting to see how much that they can catch up. So we're just coming into top mark. I think Greta is actually there before us. How's it looking with Team Japan, Greta?
Yes, hello John. Really, we're here on the overhead mark. Team Japan rounding first. We could clearly see that all the teams choosing the right-hand side were definitely in favor. So actually now the wind is really good.
I think it's so good with the wind, it's blowing Greta's voice away, but we got what you're saying. And you see what I mean now, the wind's gone back to the right and there's a lot of people who are overstanding, and Turkey's just going to squeeze in there. Not sure whether Israel had rights there. So the rule here is basically you can't force teams to go above a close haul course. So that's not above a proper course. So if they're reaching, you can force them up. And I think that was pretty good news for the Greeks, that they managed to just squeeze in there. Probably going to need to jibe off, and that breeze has just brought the fleet all the way back together. But Japan will have got a commanding lead. I think I think the race lead is probably as secured as it ever is.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that they don't put in a jibe and go with the rest of the fleet, because as we look upwind, if there's more wind on the right hand side, that's where we want to be, both up and downwind. But I guess if you've got a 100-metre lead, you can afford to be a bit conservative. And these boats in, I guess, 4th to 7th, they're likely to end up fighting a little bit, and fighting slows everybody down.
Yeah, so now everyone realizes it is like looking at the screen on the left side got more pressure, so everyone jibes and sail to the left. That's where it was proven in the last upwind leg. And then I would be really curious to see how much or how many boats the Greek boat can overtake after two downwind legs.
I wouldn't be surprised if they can get back into the top 3 at all. Last time I looked, they were going over 8 knots, and you can see that breeze now is really making a big difference to the surfing. And in marginal surfing conditions, that's when you have the most opportunity for differences in speed. And I think they showed they had really good downwind technique when we were following them earlier. So the race is often not the race at the very front, but further back. And I think they're already hopped into 4th place. We'll see when they jibe across. But Japan, home and dry. Always nice to win the last race of the day as well, isn't it?
Looking at the results, actually, if the Greek boat finishes before 14,
I think the key boat is Spain, isn't it? Who are having a... Spain
before
is
14,
struggling.
they will secure this championship, which is very likely.
So Greta, we may have some more
interview to do.
Yes.
Champion, our very first champion decided in this event. Very soon will happen after a second lap. So yeah, the Greek boat performed so consistently. The worst result is 7. The current net point is 6. Following in the second is the Spanish point is 27. So they have a 21-point lead. So adding a 7, that's a 13. So wow. More or less secured, so long as they don't get a DSQ or something.
So it's all super close between 3rd and 7th. So thinking ahead, they will probably want to be going right upwind, and if they want to go right upwind, it'll be interesting to see the choice they make at the gate. If the gate is even looking downwind, you would expect them to go around the left hand, and that's why they're trying to protect that route. At the moment, Greeks working super hard. Not sure if they're going to have overlap when they get there. The difficulty, they're being covered by the Americans. So maybe they went across too early. Japan now over 200 meters ahead. And again, it still feels with this afternoon heating that it's a bit patchy. So maybe a drop there for the Greece.
Another element for high-level sailor or champion's mind is never give up. So long as there's still some distance to the finish, however bad your situation is, keep up the good work, keep catching up, keep every wave counts, and see how much you can catch up in the end.
Well, the Japan fleet, Japan could be fairly relaxed about the chasing fleet, and I would say, just looking at this shot, they've kept themselves almost completely central. So that's super safe tactics for very little chance to make a big game, but also almost zero chance to make a big loss. And I think they must be approaching the downwind gate, and they'll be eyeing that up to see which way to go. But 200 metres, that's pretty safe, especially when the rest of the fleet is so tight together. It almost looks like there's 5 overlap boats. Spinnaker pole coming off, so we're going to be approaching the mark. Just see how well that kite is flown, even with the pole off. But I do think we're going to get the situation at the leeward gate where we're going to see the fleet splitting, and that's again where you have a big opportunity for place changing.
So at this stage, Japan can just sail their race since they have a clean land well ahead of the rest of the fleet.
In fact, the rest of the fleet is really spread out from left to right. That's actually the biggest split you would probably imagine. We're going to be looking at the skiffs later, and they will be sailing large angles downwind, so of course they tend to get a big split from left to right. But this is amazing to see, and it feels the Greeks
like a downwind starting line.
Yes.
I remember back in 2008 when we were racing in Qingdao, because we have this strong current. So if the current is going against you in the downwind, the whole fleet, like 50 yokers, just spreading out like a starting line on a downwind. But on the lake, we don't have current, do we?
No, but Turkey's done the right thing. So it's hard to see. But as we look upwind, Turkey is the right-hand most boat. So just on average, they've probably got the best pressure up there. That's what we saw up on the upwind. I mean, sailing, it's a game of chess, and it's definitely not guaranteed with the thermal mixing going on. But that's the safe position. And what Turkey've managed to do is get enough separation that they can keep their wind clear. And that also means coming into the gate, they can probably round and go up the right hand side of the beat as well. I think Japan here is on their final approach. Not surprised to see them on port, and that is, that's a race winning lead.
Yeah. So the optimum crew weight between the helm and the crew will be among 110 to 145.
So I think even the right-hand gate is favoured as well in terms of it being the most upwind mark. That's the right-hand mark looking upwind. So I think Turkey's done a really good job there, staying the most right boat looking upwind. They've put the jibe in now, and it feels those bunch of boats in that darker water have just really, really extended. Just getting the kite down a little bit early. It's not that windy, but better safe than sorry. And a really good mark rounding here can make it quite difficult for the Croatian team.
So
I guess they're just defending second now because they know that first is probably out of reach.
So Croatia is rounding in the third position, followed by New Zealand.
The key thing for me is actually Greek is right the other side. And that's really surprising. We can see the yellow bibs. They're going to be rounding, looking upwind, the left-hand mark.
Ooh.
And they're quite lucky to get in there. I don't know what happened with Italy, but it does feel that they're going the wrong way. So I would expect to see them tack at the first opportunity, because I think their rivals on the right-hand side will be gaining and gaining. But I feel sorry for Italy. I don't know what the problem was there.
So at the moment, not only we have more pressure on the right, but also the wind tend to change to the right a bit more often. And then, actually those who rounded the right side, looking at the screen, the right-hand side of the gate, they tacked to cover back of the boats behind them. Like France, Japan, Croatia. So now Japan has well over 100 meters lead for the rest of the fleet.
And I think they're really playing it safe. I mean, it's hard to tell from this angle, but they're very much just staying central, because that just minimises any potential loss. Just feels a little bit lighter than it perhaps was earlier, looking at how high or low the crew's trapezing. But now we're back into a little bit more pressure. I'm just expecting to see a little bit of bouncing when the wind softens. Oh, we got a photo bomb from a windsurfer who's going to show us how to jibe, or not.
So now we can see on the screen the British boat and the USA is still heading to the right, whereas the rest of the fleet is sailing to the left.
So, I mean, sailing's never simple. It's shift and pressure. When I say that pressure is king, I mean that's your priority. So you need to get into the areas of more wind, and then you need to be on the favourable shift. So it's very rarely a good idea to bang a corner, in other words to do just one tack on the beat. And a bit of a masterclass here from Japan. Now the reason the numbers are going down is they're probably being a little bit conservative, but that's a safe lead, and you would expect as they go around the windward mark for the numbers to really open up because the boats are significantly faster downwind than up, and looks like we're going for a tack.
Yeah. Speaking of shift and pressure, combining with my own experience, I'm the kind of sailor who's relying a lot on the compass. So I like to stare at the compass while sailing upwind. So I'm pretty good in oscillation shift, but at the same time, I'm not so good in those consistent shift, which is going all the way to one direction. So at that time, you need to get your head out of the boat or observing more the pressure and then the cloud, etc.
So a good example of a persistent shift would be a thermal breeze. That's a sea breeze is actually when you have a land breeze, a period of no wind at all, and then a sea breeze direction. Quite often we get thermal enhancement where in the northern hemisphere the wind gradually clocks to the right in the mid-late afternoon. Southern hemisphere it obviously goes the other way, tracking to left. Just that overhead shot, I do think Japan tacked a little bit too soon in terms of that pressure. I think they needed to go on a little bit more, which is why they're losing now compared to their rivals, but we'll see what happens when they tack. The numbers seem to be jumping up and down a lot, but if in doubt, when we're talking about pressure, better to sail 3 boat lengths extra rather than 3 boat lengths not enough. And it may be that they're first into more breeze on that right hand side, but when you're in the lead it doesn't matter, English expression, whether you win by an inch or a mile. I guess the real race is further back between Spain and the Greeks.
Also, to me, Japan, this crew is not pumping as much as the other boats, instead of actually just trapezing out more consistently.
It looks to me like the Greeks have actually got to the top of the pile.
They can preserve their fitness a little bit for the final race, since they are no one is anywhere close to them to catch up in this race.
So if you look at the water, you can actually see there's big difference in the wind speed on that overhead shot. The little white horses, or I think some countries call them white sheep. What do you call them in Chinese? The little white wavelets.
I can't tell.
We call them white horses, and that shows where there's more wind. So it's the wind friction on the water.
白浪.
Yes, but how does that translate?
White horse.
Okay. But it does feel like Japan is on a bit of a knock here. So we've still got that land effect, and the stronger the wind, the further away from the land effect will take place. I often think wind is like a lazy person. It will take the easiest route, and that means it never wants to go over highland. It always wants to go around highland. Just like rivers will often meander, bends, turns, because the river will cut through the softest piece of earth. But it looks like the graphic is saying that the Greeks are in the lead now, so we'll see when they come together.
To me, the Japanese is already footing. I'm not quite sure whether they are already over the ley line or they're just overpowered.
Well, the Greeks are coming in on port tack, and it looks like
they gained a lot.
They've gained a huge amount, and it feels to me like Japan was on a big header and just missed that final shift coming into the mark.
Japan is still secured, but the other boats on the right probably will be overtaken by Greece.
I mean, the thing is that it's all about what that final shift is into the windward mark. It's slightly complicated, or either I should say made simple, by the fact that there's no current here, so you don't get such a big split. If you've got current in your face, then all of a sudden you get big splits from left to right. And I think the Greek boat, they've done a really good job, but if the wind goes left near the top mark, or if the wind goes right at the top mark, that's two very different scenarios, hence the numbers going up and down, up and down. And as I said, the further we get away from the shoreline, it is lighter wind at the top, and keeping the crew flat out on the trapeze and supporting that mast makes a huge difference to the boat speed, because you just have more average or higher average boat speed, and it's easier to get over that short chop.
The target time for this two-person female dinghy is 15 minutes, so roughly each lap will have 25 minutes. And the beat for how long? 15?
I would say more than that. If it normally they would target time, actually I would have thought for about 12, but if it's a 25-minute lap, you spend significantly more than half of it going upwind, because one, you go slower, and two, your angle to the next mark is very different, even if you sail on lifts the whole way to the downwind. But it's amazing to see how much they've separated. And the Greeks, they seem to have made that left-hand side work okay. I'm actually surprised to see Japan doing so many tacks, maybe a little bit nervous trying to cover the fleet, but when the fleet has a huge split, you can't cover everybody.
Yeah, so I think they did the right thing, more or less stays in the middle, and maybe too many tacks, or maybe there are some oscillations, so they just catch every single one of them since they got the space.
I mean, in terms of pressure, I think moding becomes very important. So if you're in pressure and you're nearly running out of the pressure, you're nearly sailing out of the pressure, you would want to try upwind and stay high and stay in it. If you're not in the pressure, if you can put the bow down, sail fast and get into the new pressure as quickly as possible, then that's obviously the way to go. And I think this is also true downwind, you know, when you're in the pressure, to soak and just stay in that for as long as possible. The really fast boats like the IQ foil or the kites will be looking ahead downwind to see what pressure they're going to go into, so that's quite hard to get your head around. And that's why in terms of professional sailing, if you're used to a boat or board that does, you know, over 20 knots, then perhaps it's an easier transition into America's Cup or Sail GP or so on. In fact, I know a few sailors who do both kiting and 49ering, and I guess it makes the 49er seem much more manageable speed. So Greek still working the shifts on the land side. I'd say that the windier it gets, the less pressure becomes important, but we're still in that phase where the more wind you have, the faster you'll go.
I'm trying to figure out where the ley line is for that windward mark, because this will be the final windward mark for this race.
Well, I would hazard that we can see those ribs up there, one of which will be the PI, one of which will be the lovely Greta, and the mark is going to be pretty close to them. That's what I do when I can't find marks. I look for a group of boats and I hope the photographers are in the right place, but you can actually see really far left there is actually a line of wind where it gets funneled around this high land, and I think they're probably looking for that final tack, whereas when Japan tack, it's just a little bit soft where they are. But if they've got a lead like this, then probably it's safe. Just hope they've got the ley line right. And even now, with perhaps 150 metres to go to the ley line, it does look like they're under. You would be really thinking what you want to do on the downwind leg. Yeah, proper preparation.
You start thinking and plan your next leg well before. So, yeah.
I mean, that looks like 2 more tacks to me.
Yeah, they need to do another 2 tags. But let's have a look where the Greek is in position with the rest of the fleet. Well, it will be a championship deciding race for them.
Yeah, it's not looking good now. but the numbers, they keep changing all the time, and I think for those folks at home, I really encourage you to look at the tracking. It's always easier to win the races on the couch than it is to win them on the water. For those of you just joining us, this is the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships sailed at Lake Garda. We've got the clubs up here in the northern end of the lake. It's fantastically beautiful scenery, and this is the deepest part of the lake where it narrows, 346 meters deep. We can see these marks we're using really take advantage of the fact that they can reset the courses very quick, and it feels that the Greek is now footing in as there's going to be 2 or 3 boats arriving at that windward mark at more or less exactly the same time.
They are footing towards the windward mark, having more speed, point lower. But still a top 6.
I mean, there's some crucial crosses coming up now, and we'll see whether boats are tacking underneath or not. I think they've probably done enough, but we shall see. Definitely suiting good
if you
communication.
remember what happened to the Italy boat early on at the gate, and now they are 3rd, 4th.
I do wonder if that...
Ooh. Okay, that's overlap macaroni,
wow,
which is
that was
great execution.
Really good boat handling there. We nearly missed it. Well, that'll be one to watch in replay. If I was the Greeks, I would definitely be soaking low or jibing.
That's
we saw
where
the huge bit of dark water on that left-hand side, and Turkey's heading straight for it at the moment. They made a big gain, and it's not that simple that it's left-right. You can see how it's patchy, but just trying to spend the time in clean air, but also as much of the pressure as possible. And looking downwind, it's very easy. If all the sailors had access to drone information, it would make it much easier. So that's the privileged commentary blocks through. Japan doing 8 knots downwind and extending quite easily. My guess, they're going to stay very central to the course because it's their race just to lose. Just need to be careful with Israel. I think that may have been a touch where they got hit by the wave and it knocked them sideways.
So
let's see if they're rolling into attack and a jibe. This is the crucial wow. Because if New Zealand had to tack earlier, then they would have tacked in front of
But actually, I would feel there's no overlap. It's just New Zealand left enough space for Greece to cut
Probably not intentionally.
Yeah, that's right, not intentionally. But that shows how excellent this Greek boat take advantage of that space.
Well, they realised early, and that's why they started footing, because if they hadn't have done that, there would have been enough room probably for the other boat to put attacking. But just look at that pressure on the water. It's hard not to get distracted by the amazing mountains in the background. That's the reason that we have so much difference in wind across the course, because as the wind gets very close to land, it lifts up and over. But at the moment, it looks like a little kite problem for Japan, but relax, focus, and it's all sorted. But 200 metre lead, that's pretty safe. The only difference here is you want to stay in the pressure, but downwind you're definitely going to be doing a right hand turn down to reach to the finish.
So it's quite probably in the last 2 beats actually by what Japan has sailed, though you mentioned maybe too many tacks, but if they are gradually increasing their lead by sailing in the middle during those tacks, there must be some oscillation wind shift to take advantage.
I think they just had a really good pressure when they went around the windward mark. Now we can see here, looking at the top of our screen, we have the yellow bibs. We can see that mainsail is just moving more than anyone else's, and the reason for that positioning, I think, is to make sure that they're guaranteed to be inside at the final turning mark, because that's where it's all going to take place. I think Turkey's just kept the same strategy from last time and had a bit of separation, and Japan, as you say, they do look very comfortable, but that space and being able to sail your own race does make a big difference. And you need to remember that the Greeks, they're on port here, Turkey's on starboard, and I think this is a decision making. Will they throw in the jibe?
Turkey should cross ahead. And Greek, just a slight head up to keep clear.
So this is the battle for second. Not engaging just yet. I would say the work rate for the young Greek team is really, really good. We could just see that actually second, third, fourth is also very, very close. Okay, a little bit of swell coming here, and you know, you get this, and you need to actually think ahead how you position your boat.
Greek is making the most of the rule 42.
Absolutely, and it just feels like there was an infringement there, and Italy is doing a turn. So when those two boats came together, I think there was a port starboard infringement. I didn't actually quite manage to catch it, but that's going to open it up a little bit. I mean that the Turkish boat can get away, and they'll just be thinking about that starboard ley line to the mark. This time when they come back across, it's now Greece on starboard, and there's very, very little in it. So
but
maybe the Greeks will engage this time.
Right hand side finish, so if they are at the mark, then they're rounding to the right.
Actually, France is still fairly
close.
It's a three-boat race, not just a battle for second.
So
Greek staying low. Will France jibe? No, Greek still staying low.
France, let's see where the mark is. That
I think the winger's got the best view of all. So France is there is a marginal overlap. So that only counts when we get to the 3-hole length circle. I'm just wondering if we're going to see the teams jibing away, or
there's still a long way to go.
Greek will be in control, so maybe they will wait to jibe until Turkey does. Just put the hurt on a little bit. But we can just see the work rate. It reminds me of the Star, the previous Olympic class sailing downwind. And the timing, the pump, the leeward, the pump, the to leeward, just rolling and just working as hard as they possibly can. And every single wave counts. So at this point, France could not jibe, and it's a question of whether the Greeks can soak down to where Turkey is. I think Turkey's gapped off enough, but there's a few nervous looks round.
And I do feel having a tall crew has an extra leverage advantage. Like the height of this Greek pair is just perfect. Perfect.
So it looks like Turkey's going to go. So Turkey's probably far enough clear. So maybe the battle's now a battle for third.
Between France and Greek.
So maybe expect the Greeks to keep sailing until they get to that port downwind ley line. If they can take France slightly further, then when they turn, they can make sure they break that overlap. But at the moment, it's marginal. Maybe France could get across. So these are key moments, 1 point. Let's just watch the action. Can
so the Japanese boat.
Can the Greek boat roll over France? Japan, game, set, a match for that race.
That's a reaching finish. Convincing lead. So Japan is taking.
So it looks like France have been rolled. So if we look at the right-hand screen, it just feels like the Greek boat has rolled over, and it will be about overlap or no overlap at that mark. And I can tell you, it's going to be close. You can see France's crew up on the trapeze, so they're coming up on a high angle, and their Greek boat just pumping the main, trying to spill that dirt back as far as they can. You know, it's going to be super close, and I would imagine there's some conversations going on board, but it does feel like the Greeks have just done enough. Quite a loose leech there, standing up, pumping 1-to-1, and Turkey comfortably ahead of these two, but the Greeks will be very pleased to have held off France. Crucial jibe coming up.
Their boat handling is just role models, like a textbook boat handling. The final pumping between both the crew and helm is just really nice to see, which breaks the overlap. So we will have the very first champion of the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championship here in Lake Garda. I'm sure Greta is ready to interview our very first champion pair.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at them now. It's a funny thing with sailing. In the final race, the person who crosses the line first in the final race, well, this isn't the final race, isn't the winner. And this consistency sport, you do enough, you can have a relaxing final day.
Just as you said at the beginning of the race, you won't be surprised to see them caught up to top 3. They made it, so that's really what makes the champion. If you're cornered, if you're at the back of the fleet, never give up. It is your show time. Show your boat handling, show your tactics, and then show your decision making, and then wait. Keep catching up, keep catching up. Wow. So congratulations to this Greek duo winning the World Championship here in Garda.
And a special thank you for me for making the commentary sound good. But I mean, I do think that past performance is the best predictor of future performance, and you know, if they win a race by a long way, then they must know that they can be confident in their speed. And the racing, it's really even here. I think just small differences here and they make a huge difference. So we had a few race-defining moments. The first one is starting at the pin end for the Greece. They got rolled later on in the first beat.
Look where Japan started, actually not having that much advantage, but then they managed to pop out. Japan is in the middle to the pin. They probably tacked early.
And actually we can see it was a little bit lighter at the beginning of the race, and that's probably where the roll came from. And they just had to keep going and going. So Italy in the blue bibs here, they had a very up and down race, and I think consistency is definitely key. Japan, when they got that lead, they just grasped it with both hands and made it incredibly hard for anyone to gain any leverage on them. They had really good tacking practice today.
Yeah. To me, everything's very gentle in this Japanese pair. Their movement, the tacking, even straight line speed, technique is all much gentler than the Greek pair. And also
very safe central position there, isn't it? They didn't want to take any chances, but it doesn't matter. Win by an inch, win by a mile, you still get winner chicken dinner when you go home. So final race coming up, and I just have to say, really impressed with the standard of all these young women sailors, and we're undoubtedly going to see a lot more of them in the future.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on those future young generation. And then for the next few Olympics, we have 2028 in Brisbane, 28 in Los Angeles, 32 in Brisbane.
You've just upset all our American friends.
It will be their show time.
So for those just joining us, this is the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships on Lake Garda. This is a race recap of race 7 for the female double-handed dinghy. And this was absolutely crucial. An overlap here meant the Greek boat could come in. Remember, if it had been slightly different, then New Zealand would have had to tack before, so as they didn't infringe the starboard hand tacker. So that was an amazing bit of boat handling there. So let's see if we can grab hold of some results in a minute, and then for those folks joining at home, we're going to be looking at the 29er. That's the 2-person skiff class, the little sister to the 49er. If you're enjoying the content, please do drop us a like on YouTube.
So in race 7 of the women's 2-person dinghy, winner is Japan, followed by Turkey in the 2nd, and then Greece in the 3rd. And by finishing 3rd, Greece has also won the championship. So the rules for this series is when we have 7 races, we can discard 1 worst result. Whereas once we have 8 or more, which will finish the final race, the 9th race tomorrow, they can discard 2 worst races.
So do you think there's going to be some celebrations tonight?
Oh, definitely.
So welcome back to Lake Garda. I'm Jon Emmett from the UK. I'm joined by Sue Lijia from China, and we're just going to have a little look at the 29ers in a minute, and that's the little sister to the Olympic class, the 49er for the men and the FX for the women.
The men's and women's skiff events will use the 49er and 49er FX at the Paris Olympics. Francis Erwin Fischer and Clément Pékin and Dutch duo Odile van Arnholt and Annette Duets give us the lowdown on the boats they'll be racing this summer.
The 49er is the double-ended men's skiff at Paris 2024.
The 49er FX is the women's skiff.
The 49er FX and the 49er class are pretty similar. We sail the exact same hull, but because the men are heavier and taller, they have a longer mast and bigger sail area.
The boat has 3 sails. We use the mainsail and the jib always, and we use the colorful gennaker to sail in the downwinds.
While I'm sailing, I'm looking about the wind shift. We speak together to take some decision where we tack, where we jibe.
We can trim our boat for any wind there is. When there are light winds, we try to make the sails as powerful as possible so we can hike into it and have pressure. And when it gets very windy, we want to decrease that power, have flat sails so we can keep going fast.
The 49er is very tiring, so we need to have a good physical preparation.
If there's not so much breeze, we do a lot of leg bending and we need to have really strong legs. And if it's windy, we need to have really strong arms to pull ourselves in the boat from the trapeze.
We use trapeze harnesses, which allow us to stand farther outside of the boat and make the boat go really fast.
Paris 2024, we will have 19 boats on the starting line, and we will have 4 days of racing on fleet.
And on the 5th day, we have the medal race with the top 10 competitors to decide who wins the medals.
In Marseille, there are lots of mountains and islands around, so the wind's very funky.
Sometimes we have some sea breeze, very light and choppy condition. We can also have some mistral, strong wind with a big wave. So we can have, like the forecast, around 20 to 30 knots, maybe more.
We have a really good fleet, so there are a lot of medal contenders. But among them are Sweden, Brazil, USA, Norway, Poland, Spain, Italy.
And us, hopefully.
I think maybe 8 boats can got a medal. Bart Lambrix and Floris van der Werkel, who are very good. They won 3 times the World Championships. And we have a Spanish boat, Kiwis, Croatian guys. We have a lot of boats can manage to get a medal.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching for. I'm Jon Emmett. I'm joined by Lijia at the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships in Lake Garda. I really enjoyed that 49er explainer, and it's amazing just how many countries who have the potential for a medal. Personally, I think if you'd ask me, I would say probably the Dutch in the FX and 49 are looking very good. But just a very personal message, I know the men's team, the Dutch men's team, there's been a little bit of injury there, and I hope everything's okay, because we always want the very best sailors to win rather than illness, injury, gear failure, anything like that going on. And looking back, the 49er, which is the big sister to the 29er, which we see on screen now, I always used to think it was just the fastest boat, but now I think it's probably described in terms of Olympic sailing as medium speed when we've got the foilers in action. And I do hope maybe tomorrow we'll be having a chance to look at the kite surf in action, because they're just amazing, amazing beasts. But first, we're going to go to the skiff class, very much like the 49er and FX, but single trapeze. So for the folks at home, Lily, can you explain what's going on with the flags on the committee boat?
Yeah, so the very top we have orange flag, which is, well, one side, the windward side of the starting line. And then we have the 29er
So the orange
class
flag is saying that they're on station and getting ready for starting sequence. And we can also see this, the class flag there.
Yeah, and then U flag.
And what was the number which just went up? We're in sequence
3.
now.
Yeah, so now to make it more understandable, the starting sequence, we're using numbers. So you see these numbers, you know it's under 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or 1 minute.
So it's interesting that the sailors are moving around an awful lot, just trying to do their final time runs. Any sailing event, whether it's a IQ foil or an Ilka, it's time on distance to hit the start line. So imagine it like a triangle. You've got 3 things. You need to be in the right position, you need to be at the right speed, and you need to be at the right time. And if any one of those elements of your start is missing, you could be in a lot of trouble. Now, we've seen it before. Oh, that's interesting. We have the single-handed classes in the background starting their long sail out to their race course. But the start is going to be going in under 3 minutes. And with this right-hand track a lot of the time, do you think there's a chance of any boats on port?
Looks like still boats floating around to find their position, and then actually now you could still look ahead to see where the pressure is, where you want to go, and then adjust your provisional or initial plan. And in this class, or in this fleet of female skiff, we have 24 boats, and this boat first joined the Youth World Championship in 2007.
So at the moment we're just in the starting sequence. Thank you very much for people who are joining us. Comments, live comments are very welcome. Might not be able to read them now, but we will go back through in replay, and we're always interested to see what you have to hear. Tell us where you're watching from, who you support, and who you think's going to win. At the moment, the majority of the fleet is to the right of the committee boat in the waiting area, but we can see some of the top sailors, those sailors in the yellow and blue bibs, starting to line up with less than a minute to go. The big danger is if you get stuck to the right-hand side of the committee boat and cannot start. We can see some boats lined up near the pin end on port, so it could be an interesting start. Time will tell. Boat handling, absolute key, and it's amazing looking at this. If you look down towards where Island is, there's a very large line sag, so somebody could start in the middle, several boat lengths clear of all the boats around them.
So one of the good way to avoid the land sag, if you're going to start in the middle, I would be highly recommended you find a transit before the start. So just line up on either end of the starting boat and then find an object alongside on the shore.
No room for port tackers.
Yeah.
So no room for port tackers. That was a pretty good start. We had 70% of the fleet on start time. It just feels like Island was a long way back, and GBR in control of Island, and this could be crucial. This could be absolutely crucial. The boats which started at the committee boat end are already on port, with about 50% of the fleet going left, 50% of the fleet going right, and it's easy to get boxed in and not be able to tack. Now it looks like Hong Kong is coming across, and they're trying to thread the needle, and
Are they doing
Maybe
the
there was a
turns?
penalty turn there. Sorry,
Yeah.
we missed that. But the real battle here is between GBR and Ireland, and GBR just trying to get over the top of Ireland, but Ireland look like they have good speed. And now probably 70% of fleet going to right, including GBR. Ireland carrying on to the left. Denmark going, and now it's 80% of fleet going right. But that GBR attack, was that a race-winning move? Because if Ireland get rolled by Denmark, it could be really tough for them. Remember, lanes, it doesn't matter what event you're doing. Having a clear lane to sail upwind, it's really important.
Looks like Finland has fresh air, clean air to sail to the right. So now for their course area is actually closer on the right-hand side of the course to the shore, which is to the mountain or cliff, whatever you call it, to see whether they can get that extra pressure or wind bend.
So I think in this situation, GBR looking to try and stay high and just put the hurt on Ireland even more. We've got the situation where Finland is just starting to get a little knock, so whether they're running out of pressure or whether that's the start of the wind bend, it's hard to tell. Really important on these very warm days to keep your head out the boat, because as soon as you slow down, it's much harder to get back up to speed. And these boats, they work really well at full speed. Small foils, accurate trim, and just keeping the boat super flat and driving. But GBR looking really good here. And it could be a really long hold. I wonder if some of the Ilka sailors are a little bit worried because, yeah, they might get eaten.
So yeah, I've sailed a 29er last year in Weymouth, and then I could feel as a crew, it's super physical. So after every tag, I hand over the main sheet to the crew, and then she or him just constantly sheeting and out to adjust the pressure on the sail in order to have a flat and stable boat.
Absolutely, and you can see just looking at the water that there's definitely big differences in the wind strength here, and the idea is that you can trim the boat all the time, just making the most of those differences and keeping the crew fully extended out there on the tippy toes, as much weight out as possible. And this is a fantastic boat for young sailors. What's happened with the 49er, there's been a change of mast. The previous mast manufacturer stopped making the mast, so the class took advantage to get a completely new rig with thicker, firmer sails, a different mast, the black sails. It does mean that the weight seems to have crept up for the class, maybe as much as 10 kilos. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but that means that teams that perform well at the last Olympic Games, they've been having to put on weight. And actually, interesting thing in the 49er, all the previous Olympic medalists have now retired, so that's why that field is particularly open. 29er here sailing as all female helm and crew, and that is probably the perfect stepping stone to the Olympic FX.
Speaking of those big names, or say 29er alumni, we got again Peter Berlin Blatug, and then the previous or reigning Olympic champion from GBR, Dylan Fletcher.
Yeah, well, let's look at the rankings, because it's so close, and I'm sort of talking here about GBR and Ireland, but let's have a little look at the overall rankings.
Poland actually only just won the European Championship a week ago, so they are very strong to claim a gold here. And
wow, so it's changed a lot since I looked last night. So I think GBR had struggled in the first two races. Ireland is currently sitting in bronze. So whilst we were watching the two-person double-handed dinghy, it's amazing how much can change. And the skiffs, they do a lot of races in a day. It's just two for the single-handed classes, which we saw sailing out on a normal race day. The idea being they have slightly shorter races. But we can see here how it all gets congested at the top of the mark, and having as we get to the top of the course, approaching the windward mark, and you can see how finding a good lane and clear wind becomes so important. And it's hard racing in these conditions where the wind is unstable. One small mistake can make a huge difference, and that start, I think, was pretty important.
One of the beauty of the 29er, I remember when I sailed it, is it has a self-tacking jib. So something you don't need to change that much every time you tack.
Well, it may be a small jib, but if you forget to let it off when you tack, then it can be pretty bad news. Not as serious as a 49 or FX, but it's funny, I'm looking at the rankings now, and it feels like they've got into that right-hand pressure, and they're flat out, and they're bow down for Wimmer Mark, and I guess Finland's going to be thanking the spectator boat, wherever it is. Expect a big lull. And also
that
there's
must create a lot of dirty air.
Well, they were very lucky they didn't have to go through the dirty water as well. It's hard to describe, but when you go through aerated water, it's not a nice feeling. The boat sort of sinks into the water, and it's definitely slow. So, yeah, hopefully that won't happen too much. But they are relatively comfortable in the lead, and I think the boats who are out of this pressure will be really feeling the hurt now. As I say, in terms of pressure sailing, better to sail 3 boat lengths extra in than end up underneath, and we're going to see some big speed differences as soon as they turn and go downwind.
Yeah, and the difference between the Olympic class 49er to this 29er.
Oh, they're well over the ley line.
Oh, yeah.
Massively. The whole fleet's massively over the ley line. You're going to get a lot of boats arriving at exactly the same time.
So, would that be a big right-hand shift?
And the pressure, yeah, so that's perfect for USA. They will have sailed 10% less distant than some of the boats that are right at the top of the screen. And because of the racing rules, those boats who are Wimmer boat, they have to keep clear. So Finland did a really nice job there, and I'm just wondering if it's going to be straight into a jibe and a hoist because of that pressure. It's funny, it feels like they've sailed out the pressure now. That's amazing. This is what we mean by unstable wind. So wind stability is the mixing up and down, so you can be 4 boat lengths away from somebody and in completely different winds. So Finland needs to go as high as they possibly can now to get into that, back into that wind, and I would expect to see virtually everybody do a hoist and jibe on the mark. And I don't think those Ilka sailors should really be on that course. But
pretty crowded mark rounding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you see how just to be a little bit high so they could do a tight turn. But this is a really crucial jibe. I mean, the crews, they're going to be feeling the pressure to get it right. And the reason we have 2 marks is
we
just
have a spinnaker got tangled. Oh, released. Yeah.
The reason we have the 2 marks is just to avoid that kill zone of upwind boats on port meeting downwind boats on starboard, because that can be pretty scary. But this is a fantastic shot, just showing the extra wind, and the leaders are now going lower and faster as they get into the pressure. So if they can, there goes the island in the yellow bib. If they can, they're all going to be looking at doing just one jibe, just really nailing that corner and the extra pressure. The problem is, how do you overtake people when you're following them? So it's going to be a tough race for those people towards the back now.
Those skiff, in terms of downwind strategy, is very different from those traditional slower dinghies, because their speed is so fast that more or less everyone's sailing the same angle or course. Whereas if you are sailing single-handed dinghy or like a 420 2-person dinghy, then you got more to play. With this, is pure speed. I did find it very enjoyable to sail those skiff. I wish I could have sailed it when I was young.
Well, this is just buy a stamp, lick it, send it. You know, the more you push, the faster you go. The faster you go, the more apparent wind you have. The more apparent wind, the lower you go. And just, you are off. And you just have to respect the bearaway and focus during the boat handling, and you're off. I mean, Finland's already extending. They did a nice jibe there, and they're heading off back down, and they can do what they want, really. I think all being equal, looking downwind to choose the left-hand gate and go up that right-hand side. Now the afternoon wind is pumping. I guess we've got 13 to 16 knots now. The hull speed is pretty similar to the wind speeds. You get used to looking for the pressure to your side rather than behind, which you would in an Ilka, or in front like you would in a kite. But this was a really good race strategy. Start the committee boat, tack, and the fact they overstood a little bit didn't matter when the vast majority of the fleet did. Also, interesting to see such a large line sang. I guess there'll be a few coaches doing a debrief on that later.
Yeah, it will be very useful to watch the replay for the sailors and coaches alike, and doing some
So
debrief.
Finland going back because they were just starting to go out of the pressure, and I think Germany is closing the gap very rapidly. This could be a pretty tight cross.
Oh, I would say Germany is already overtaking them. Oh,
I don't know why I'm holding my breath here. Is that an overlap? I think that's no. I think there was no overlap. Oh.
But Finland still made a good.
Yeah, well, there's a kite problem with Germany. They were just pushing so hard to get into first. I think they're going to get overtaken by second and third.
Yeah, because the crew needs to hike, but they need to slow down or sail downwind again to get the kiting.
The problem is that they're now in the there's now boats above them in the overtaking lanes. So
actually,
really
it's not bad for Finland to wait a little bit, get the kite down earlier.
In terms of boat handling, to just come in on port for that right-hand gate looking upwind is a much easier manoeuvre.
And then let's have a look of the Germany crew.
It's a much easier manoeuvre to come in at full speed on port to that right-hand mark than to try and jibe and drop right on the mark. Even in a single-handed boat like Ilka, to do that big turn, it's really difficult because you have to get everything set and the speed of the boat bleeds off. So speed is your friend. The faster you're going, the better your foils are working, the easier it is to do manoeuvres. When everything slows down, that's when you're in trouble.
So Finland could just carry on sailing on port tack, heading to the right-hand side of the course, which is more favoured, more pressure, whereas the rest of the fleet just following her. Very different picture from what we saw earlier in the two-person dinghy 420. Just less tack, all about the speed in one lane, both upwind and downwind.
Wow, if everyone's following you, there's not a big need to do anything else. I think it's important to get that starboard ley line absolutely spot on. I think if you're not sure, better to be slightly over to make it easier to do that jibe set. I would imagine Finland is just trying to hold the height a little bit, just making it harder. But we have GBR, according to stats here, in second. But I think the pressure differences across the course are still very large. I think Poland's probably in the more conservative position, just tracking along that right-hand side.
I think the angle of this Finnish crew is a bit over.
Are you worried about the back,
yeah.
the hyperextending? So top tip to any sailors, if you have lower back pain, it's really important to work your core. Prevention better than cure. But if you've done a lot of extension, it's really worth doing some flexion when you get back, and the easiest way to do that is just to put your knees into your chest, clasp them with your arms, and to roll like a ball just to get that natural shape back in and massage back. Looks like Finland now going for tack. I think they ended up in slightly softer breeze again, as you see when we get towards the top of the course, further away from the high land, there's just slightly less wind. Hopefully they've got the ley line spot on. It feels like there's still quite a high angle. I think it's safer to keep going like Poland and is that Ireland, and look at hopefully not killing any Ilkas, look at being over rather than under the ley line. But of course shifts do come, but looking after your core, looking after your back, it's such an important thing to do. And if you're under any sort of discomfort, your body's trying to tell you to do something, and that something is usually stretch and strengthen. So you cannot be too strong for sailing. You could be too heavy, but you cannot be too strong. And the stronger your core, the safer you are and the faster you are. So maybe the Finnish crew just needs to drop down a tiny bit on that trapeze, and then they'll be more loaded into the rig. So because the boat's that little bit faster, a little bit more apparent wind, we don't tend to see the bouncing that you get with the 420s that sail with the Oscar flag. It's more smooth, and at the moment they just seem to have opened up quite a good gap, so probably just managed to tap before it got too light. It'd be interesting to see where Hong Kong and GBR were, because it looked like, according to the stats, they made an early gain but then a big loss. And I think that's sailing all over. It's often worth biting the bullet and having a small loss to gradually make a gain. And you can see how windy it is with Hong Kong's leech, that sail is very open and twisted at the front, but there's a lot of separation there. And I just think, all things being equal, right-hand side, sailing is a consistency sport, and overall your position is normally dictated by the worst score that you have to count in your series. And we saw already in the two-person double-hander that there's actually been a winner with 2 races to spare, and I think highly likely we're going to see another winner, or at least one more winner overall today.
I would say probably we will have half of the events decided who will be the champion. Let's see. So Poland is the current European champion, and then they're sitting very strong in the overall results in this event.
And they look low and fast compared to Finland, with a little bit more twist, rate further back, slightly lower course, and just keeping that average speed up. So yeah, I think there's going to be some maths for myself, John, and co-commentator Lily. We'll try and tell you what's going to happen, but things can change very, very quickly. But this is looking really nice, and it's funny, when boats are going fast, they often look really smooth.
Yeah. So the 29er was designed and brought to life in '98 by Australian skiff legend Julian Brathwaite. I like his book very much, High Performance.
Frank Brathwaite.
Yeah.
Or has Julian rewritten it? This often happens. I might
sailing
be showing my
family,
age.
very much a sailing family. And then, speaking of a sailing family, maybe you can give a brief introduction about this GBR boat.
Yes, well, it's always of personal interest, and it makes me feel quite old. The helm and the crew of the GBR boat is both quite well known to me. If you look at the Jon Emmett Sailing YouTube channel, you can see some past interviews. But the dad of Amelie, that's the crew, is a double Olympic medalist in the 49er class. So perhaps no surprise that his daughter is now excelling in 29ers. And you will see that, you know, sailing, it's a sport for life, but it's also very much a family sport. So if you're sailing, please get your kids in Optimus when they're big enough.
Yeah, so look like very much Emily is following his father's footstep into a skiff. May well sail the FX fairly soon. The fact that the Hong Kong boat has already started to sail FX back in their home.
Well, it is quite light sometimes in Hong Kong. Light wind venue.
Right.
Weymouth is a bit different this time of year. We've actually got the Musto Skiff Worlds going on, and they've had some proper breezy days. But back to the action, and Finland, they're right at the back of the bus here, right at the back of the bus, and I guess they're just thinking, what is the safe place to jibe? Because when you've got a reasonable lead and the boats behind are following, you just want to minimise the potential for any mistakes. And it's far fresher now for race 10 than it was at the beginning of the day, and continues to build. In fact, if we look in the background, we can see the men's and women's one-person dinghy, and for sure they're going to have a physical day. It's a physical day just for them to get all the way to their race course.
Yeah, at that time you would really appreciate most of the time when you have a coach boat to tow you out and aim. But for this event, unfortunately, we don't have personal coach boats, so all the coaches are sitting on the same, but a very beautiful ship.
They're probably watching the live feed. In fact, if we cut to the coaches at some point, I bet we could get a few of them to wait for us. Because sometimes in that scenario, the best way to do is to watch the tracking. But that was another really nice manoeuvre by Finland. I think you're going to see Poland just go a tiny bit further, just have that separation and that opportunity to narrow the gap. But now in the final stages of the race, you see, because of the speeds of the boat, there's quite a lot of distance opening up. But I think Poland did exactly the right thing there, just to gap off a little bit, and they have the starboard advantage when the boats come together. And Finland's already had one very tight port starboard, haven't they?
Yeah, looking at this downwind sailing, I remember, because I'm not very familiar with this boat, and I just find it so fast, so exciting. And then my crew's feet is constantly battling with my bottom, going backwards.
Right, everyone has to get to the back of the bus. I think Poland have really closed the gap. We'll see what happens with the angles when they jibe. But the thing is, not only are you going faster in more wind, you end up going lower.
Oh, we have the finish line here as the race committee boat. So Finland finished first, followed by Poland, who's the overall leader so far. And then Italy will be crossing the finishing line in the third place.
They're going to go for a little duck
10.
there. Yeah.
Just drop.
We've said it before, and we look at the Nations Cup again, but you know, Italy's just been sailing so well, and it's such a top tip for federations. The way to help your sailors improve is to send them to international regattas. So years ago, if you wanted to go to the Olympic Games, you turned up to Weymouth Olympic Week. If you won the week, you went to the Games. There's your ticket. Now we have selection trials, and all the top countries have selection trials which are spread over high pressure international events, and that's just the best way to raise the level of your sailor. This is a high pressure event, so for those just joining us, welcome to the Youth Sailing World Championships 2024 at the beautiful Lake Garda. You can see those mountains in the background, the tallest of which is over 3,000 metres. So if you're here as a spectator, there's some fantastic hiking, mountain biking, cycling to come. The boats coming in thick and fast for the end of the race. It's the women's Skiff, and this is the northern end of the lake. And it would be good if we can get the lovely Greta on the scene to see if she can catch up with the winners. Have you managed to catch them, Greta? They're going very, very fast.
Team Finland, congratulations, ladies. First victory of the day, and actually also your first victory of this championship. How are you feeling?
Feeling very happy to be presenting Finland in the Youth Worlds. Really tough winds, like I'm already dead in that, but yeah. Super happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, it is super windy now. It picked up a lot, quite strong. Actually, on this side of the lake, it's always stronger than on the rest a little bit. So we could see through the whole race that you were building up your lead. What was your tactic in there?
Well, not a special tactic, but really fast. Boat speed is the main thing, to be honest. We have really good speed and lots of wind.
Okay, and upcoming goal for the upcoming races?
Well, to do our best and get a good result, I don't know. Hopefully to get a medal.
Definitely. So one last question. How much do you enjoy sailing here on our lake?
Yeah, it's really nice, really pretty, and the wind is really nice. We love to sail in tough wind. And yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Good luck, girls, and back to you to the studio, Jon and Lily.
Thank you, Greta. So it's been it will be a 4-race day, but let's have a quick recap on race 10.
So in the female skiff fleet, race 10, it is Finland winning this race, followed by Poland, the overnight leader, and then the home favourite Italy.
I think crucially both Ireland and GBR, they were sitting high at the end of yesterday's close of play. They struggled a little bit. We have one more race to go, and it's going to be breeze on.
Looking at the overall result, let's
have a quick recap. So Finland started on port. That's how they got to the right so quickly. I missed that. Oh, that is amazing. In my defence, I did say let's see if anybody starts on port, but I didn't notice that, and that was a race-winning strategy. So maybe not as fast as Poland across the race course, but if you stick the boat in exactly the right place, it's very hard to beat. I'm actually wondering they may be thanking that big boat. They just got round the back of that wash, and the whole fleet, not the whole fleet, a large amount of the fleet overstanding the ley line, the starboard ley line to mark, meant they could just extend, and it's a really high pressure manoeuvre doing that jibe set. And what was interesting is that the second mark was just outside of the increase of pressure. So when they came around the mark, it was actually quite light. And to get up to the pressure, it must have been a nervous moment. But as soon as they were in it, they were off and they didn't look back. The other key moment, which we'll come to, was that leeward mark. So the gate, they jibed early and then coming back on port, but there was a starboard boat, German boat, who tried to do the 270 turn. The kite didn't come down and Finland just sailed off into the distance. But Poland, I think they did a good job, didn't they? Very consistent.
Yeah, Poland very consistent, and then actually the overall results, they are all pretty close, a lot to play because they all have some big results, so we might not be able to know the winner of the 29er female skiff until tomorrow.
But what we do know is Finland did a very good job here, and they're going to be some happy sailors. So if we look at the water, we can see just in the last time we've been here that it's getting a little bit darker, and up on those race courses near the mountain we've probably got the 15 knots southerly that I promised. So as I said, it's a 4-race day. That means one more race, and it's 30 degrees here. It's pretty warm for this time of year, and thankfully the Aura arrived on time. For those people just joining, this is the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships, and it was an early start for some. We had the windsurfers were racing, yes, you heard that correctly, 8 a.m. racing, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we have early racing tomorrow, because we have a good northerly breeze. Then, like, you know, sensible people on holiday, there's a little bit of a rest around midday, and then in the afternoon from about 1 o'clock we've got this thermal breeze coming in, and actually it came in just in time for us to start our live feed. So Lake Garda, thank you very much, and time for a quick ad break. So sailing, it's really a weight-dependent sport, so there's an optimum weight for sailors to reach. But I would say now with the breeze pumping, this is going to suit the heavier teams. They're going to be pleased they've got a full race day, and there's going to be some tired sailors when they come ashore.
Yeah, it's a pretty physical, demanding day, so the girls must be remembered to keep feeling and keep having some food so that they can go on for the last race.
And it's a consistency sport, so now when you're tired, you've got to be especially focused, because in any of the classes, a capsize could be big trouble. So you can't even relax, I always think, until the sails are rolled and the boat's tied down on shore, because we've got strong breeze here, and the potential is still there for some big place changes. So it's going to be all about the start, and just keeping it simple, minimising mistakes. And I've just loved watching the skiff racing. We're so lucky in sailing. There's so many different aspects of our sport.
Yeah, after trying the 29er last year, I would say if I got the chance, if I could turn the time back in 20 years, this is the boat that I would definitely choose, because it's just so much fun. Because it's when I started to do some foiling and I would found skiff, it's equally fun. They're just so fast, and then they're still touching the water, whereas foiling, you probably wouldn't feel the contact with the water that much.
Wow, just watching the 29ers go downwind, there wasn't much boat left in the water, and it's still just 15 knots. For those folks just joining us, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us. Please do share this feed. We're here in beautiful Lake Garda. It's the largest lake in Italy. It's a sailing paradise, and we've been having really good racing so far. PRO's done the very best of the conditions, and actually the first race started at 8 a.m. this morning, so those windsurfers are probably enjoying a little bit of a siesta now. So sorry we weren't able to bring the live kites yesterday. That was something I was really looking forward to.
Tomorrow.
Fantastic class. Tomorrow, you think we might get them?
Well, tomorrow hopefully we can have a bit of coverage for the kites. So yeah, in this event we have 6 clubs, 5 courses, 11 events, 6 clubs, 6 classes. Wow, excuse my wobbly English.
And you forgot the most important thing. Over 400
sailors from
and over 150 coaches
from 70 nations. And the fact that if we count from all because this is the 53rd edition of the Youth Sailing World Championship, and then if you count all the nations who's been to this event, it's well over 100. It's just that at each year, some came, some didn't come.
And a special shout out, something that's very close to my heart, is the Emerging Nations programme, trying to get those traditionally not sailing countries the opportunity to race, so you have a chance, well, long term, a chance to go to the Olympics wherever you're born. I think it's really important. Sailing might not be a sport for everyone, but anyone could do it if they wanted to. The other project, really proud of World Sailing, is the sustainability. And if you are just joining us, if you look back, we had a little bit about some of the Paralympic sailors, and personally I completely back the bid to get the Paralympics featuring sailing again. That again is something very close to my heart, because literally everybody can sail. Now we've got around 2 minutes to start time, so they're just all milling around the back of the committee boat. We're under U flag, and I'm just going to have a very quick explain what U flag means. If you are over within the final minute, which is in about a minute's time, if you are over the start line in the final minute, you are disqualified from the race. The only difference between that and the black flag is if it's a general recall, you're given a second chance. Black flag, you'll be sent home. And actually, if you're going to get black flag, final race of the day is probably the best one, but you're never going to want to get any letters in your scoreline if you can help it. Race officer prudently setting a slight port bias in the start line, knowing that the fleet is mainly wanting to get to the right hand side. We've got lots of racing going on at the moment. The single-handed men's, single-handed women's dinghy were going out, or should I say one person dinghy. This is the final race for the female skiff, and we will be having racing for the male/mixed skiff later on.
On the race committee boat, we can see a whiteboard which indicates the wind indication and the course you are going to sail. So that's some information given to the sailors about this coming race.
So you would expect that the length of the windward leg may well have been increased gradually. And that's the final minute. Very important job there. And obviously, if there's a slight change in wind direction, they need to take that into account as well. Now, the danger here is some teams getting stuck to the right-hand side of the committee boat. Finland managed to do a fantastic start last time. They actually started on port and got first to the right. At the moment, with around 30 seconds to go, it's hard to tell if they get a gap. What we can tell is if we look at Brazil, there is a huge line sag. In fact, Sweden probably should be sailing for the start line now.
But I would say for the skiff, where Brazilian sits, actually allows them to have a bit more.
There's a USA boat looking at port tack, but I think I think it's not going to happen. I think USA needs to bail. They need to bail. They're going to have the door shut by Sweden.
Oh yeah, Sweden. Oh.
So actually, Brazil, they were okay. They popped out, but USA, oh, that's pretty scary situation. Going to be ducking almost the entire fleet.
But
let's
actually,
see who's first onto port.
It feels the start line is the committee end favoured. As you can see, those port tack well behind.
So
the
Finland
fleet.
was one of the first onto port tack again, and the big difference here, not so much the angle, but there is significantly more pressure on the right, and you can see that with the crews fully extended. So Finland did a pretty good job of getting round, and we can see that the rich are just getting richer because everybody behind is in their dirty air and effectively going backwards in relation to them.
As we can see, most of the boats of the fleet is heading to the right, which is almost an open answer. Everyone knows heading to the right, get more pressure, get the wind bend.
I can only see Brazil heading to the left, and they're probably just looking for the lane to tack. In fact, there they go.
Brazil tack. So the whole fleet is sailing on port tack to the right-hand side of the course.
I'm just scanning the board, so it looks like Ireland in the yellow bibs is in second place, but it's a consistency sport. It's not about winning the race, it's about constantly being at the front, and that means for that long port tack you really need to have a clean lane. And Sweden, they really made life difficult for themselves, being so far back in that last 25 seconds for the start, and it's something that's so important to get right. And as Lily said earlier, my top tip would be to get those ley lines. And if you look at the beautiful surround we have in Lake Garda, it's probably one of the easiest places, being a lake, that you've always going to have a transit, and indeed a back transit. You see the work rate here with Ireland, and they're absolutely flat out, and the bow nicely in the water. So we're just looking at avoiding going into those big chops. So the weight's just been slid slightly further back, and you can't see it from a distance, but there's constant trimming of the mainsail to optimize the speed. I think Finland, they've taken some confidence on their previous race, and they're doing really well. They don't want to go too far to the right, where you can actually sail out of that area of pressure where you literally get into a wind shadow. So yeah, Finland looking pretty much in control there.
Yeah, hopefully they can call the ley line more accurately this time.
What I can see is Poland have again got themselves a very safe position. So they're not the furthest to the right, but they have a really clear lane to the right, and they can sail their own race. And I think that's a really mature way to sail, because it's a balance between the risk and the rewards. So yeah, Poland, nice position there, and then they can decide later if they want to be one of the first boats to lead into the tack or carry on further. Danger is if you go really far to the right, you can actually sail out of that pressure again. So I do like the positioning that Finland have, just staying slightly in a high mode.
But their speed still seems the fastest.
I think Poland's probably the fastest, but they need to be careful not to drop down too much, so they can just keep going as much as they can. But it looks like Finland's putting in the tack. Looks like Poland's going to cross and then go on a similar line to Ireland and Finland, but we shall see.
Yeah,
it's all about thinking ahead.
Finland tacked, followed by Argentina and Ireland. Let's see where the mark ley line is. So Poland crossed behind Finland.
So Finland leading the fleet back. We've got Hong Kong underneath that. I think Poland is just playing it safe, and it's probably going to put a little bit of hurt onto Ireland. Remember, when these boats put the bow down, they do increase the speed quite significantly, so they've got a varied angle of optimum VNG, and I think Poland is sailing with a huge amount of maturity, and I do think they've got a little bit of a boat speed advantage. This is actually only the second race we've seen in these conditions, but they're gapping off from Finland, and I do think they look very fast and controlled. So the key thing will be the spreader mark. How good is that jibe hoist? Because I can't see anything different than that at the moment.
Yeah. Compared with the single-handed dinghy, when we sail the Ilkers, it's more the leg work. So it's a whole body work, and then having a strong core is also important. But compared with the crew here on the skiff, is it more upper body work?
I think it's whole body work. I just couldn't help notice, we were talking about the 49er earlier, and I just saw one go round in the background. The thing we can't see on the picture is Hong Kong in relation to the ley line. So if Hong Kong can make it around the mark, they're probably going to be in good shape in top 3. If they have to do 2 tacks and come in on port, well, it would be a scary time for that team. So I think Finland will probably be just staying up high to make it safe.
To me, they are already overland again, trying to foot.
I personally, I really like Poland's position, because if the wind goes a little bit light, they can bear away and keep the speed and stay on that ley line. Or if there's a bit of a knock, they're safe. And I think
you see that
it's about keeping
angle.
safe.
Hong Kong is still.
I think Hong Kong is on the ley line.
Yeah.
So they may end up slotting in third. But they are definitely going to be rolled by the first 2. But it's always hard to tell that angle.
Wow. Look at the whole fleet. On the left of the screen, Hong Kong probably wouldn't be able to lay the mark. Finland, even though overlay a little bit, but they are still the leading boat in control. I wonder whether those boats have to sail to that place in order to get extra pressure or the wind bend. So even though so many boats are overland, then they still choose to go there after the last race.
I think it's just about safety first. So what you're trying to do is really carefully think about your position in relation to the other boats. So I don't think Poland will be particularly bothered about Hong Kong, but they will worry about the positioning with some of their rivals. Top 3 around the windward mark means they're in striking distance of winning the race. And I say, you know, the jibe set here will be really, really crucial.
Ooh. So
really good speed. And Hong Kong looks like they're carrying on. That's a surprise.
Oh, they jibed.
Good crew work there, and it's going to be hard for Hong Kong. They're going to be really gassed there. Oh, you see why these boats are fighting. Finland is just sailing off, and you've also got the starboard tackers coming up with. Crikey. That's why we have the spreader mark, Lily.
I have the memory for those skiff positioning right after rounding the mark is so important. So if you are somehow in the dirty wing of another boat, the pressure difference is much, much bigger than sailing a traditional boat, a slower boat.
Well, I think one of the things is obviously that with the apparent wind, the wind shadow will be in a different place to a slower boat. But I think Finland will be very pleased with Hong Kong being there. It was just a little bit of a roadblock. It didn't make things easy for Poland. Poland now look like they're launched, but they are now that little bit high, which could potentially make it harder for them to choose their jibe. So for folks at home, you know, do comment who you're supporting. I can see somebody unfortunately has gone for a swim. Unfortunately, the fastest way to sail is always with the foils in the water and the mast in the sky, not the other way around. So there'll be some wet Brazilian sailors who will.
Another memory I had is it's actually quite tricky to righting those skiff. If you don't get the balance right, you ended up in an endless capsizing.
Well, you know what the answer to that is then.
Crew work.
Don't capsize. Prevention better than cure. Finland and Poland absolutely launched here, and I think it's just going to be a judgment case. We've got Finland are looking at their starboard coming across. I would expect Poland to extend a little bit just to have that gapping off again.
I just want to say the footage or the visual we're watching at now, it would never ever be possible with the previous traditional way of filming. So our production team, how to pronounce it better, AALVAA Media, is really using the most innovative like technology, and then sending those drones, follow the boats, and even if those are very fast boards, they can follow them, and then giving you this extra stunning pictures or footage.
I just
videos.
Understand quite how fast it is. In terms of the Summer Olympic Games, kites are the fastest sport.
Yeah.
Not the fastest water sport. They are the fastest sport. If you imagine the rate of closure they have. But Finland looking really nice here. Now, I think they will be looking at doing a 2-jibe downwind. I guess they will have jibed a little bit later now, just so they can not have a port starboard incident at that gate mark. They've probably gapped off enough that they're safe, but we won't know until the boats come together.
Wow, the jibing takes a lot of practice, because when I was doing the World Championship last year, almost in the strong wind day, I capsized every single race.
So what they've done is they've actually done the jibe far closer to the mark, just to judge just that line and stay a little bit further to the right hand side. I expect they will come around this mark now and stay in a relatively high moat, and they're just in control of the fleet.
Look at those cooperation, like really teamwork. And then I remember seeing one of the news release from World Sailing interviewing those sailors. They say more or less most of them coming from Optimist, and then choosing to sail double-handed or those skiff, they need to start talk. And then you used to tease me, like whoever sailing with me, they ended up capsize or whatever, like, because
well, your crews told me they just got used to the surprise tack. But yeah, I mean, it takes years of experience, and that's why, you know, in terms of teams, some people will sail their whole lives together, and there's really good examples of people doing multiple Olympic campaigns and then going to sail GP, etc. And it's still the same people sailing together, and actually you can go full circle with your communication, that after a certain point you just know how the other person is going to react, and from that point of view, you don't need to, you literally know what's going to happen. But I think the Polish team, to me, is looking really, really smart, really fast, and they're just keeping their options open. So again, they've just gapped off a little bit, so they are going to the right hand side, but they've just opened that little bit of separation, and I would say they're looking higher and faster at the moment, because it's not as simple as just go to the right. You need to be in the pressure.
They are not in the pressure anymore, and then the angle is lower.
Yeah.
But would it pay to tack now?
So the problem is, without seeing ahead, it's almost impossible to answer that question. So normally the answer to the question is go to the place, the quickest route to the next pressure. And whether that's to foot, or whether that's to pinch, or whether that's to tack, will depend on a day by day. But looking at this screen, you can see to the left there's a little bit more breeze where Poland are, and Poland is now going significantly higher and faster. Significantly higher and faster. They're literally in different breeze.
No, they are on a different tack. Poland is on that, right? Poland is on starboard tack.
So the thing which we have late afternoon, and you can see the big fluffy clouds in the background that look more like sheep over the northern side. You've got the big fluffy clouds showing just the amount of mixing, whereas when we look upwind, it's now starting to look a little bit hazy, like it did yesterday. So that mixing means that there's big differences in pressure, and that's a good reason to keep the head out the boat. But you know, Finland in their position now, they're pretty safe. They're guaranteed a low score, but there's never time to relax. And for the classes racing late in the day, it's going to be some nervous decision making at start time where they're going to go.
It does look like
I would expect Finland to tack.
Yeah,
I would.
No.
I think Finland does need to tack. They're now in the shadow. Yeah,
and they should
Finland needs
look
to go
back on the other side a bit more, unless they are seeing an obvious pressure in the front. Oh
no, they needed to tack. And yeah, and you
but
need
looking
really.
at Poland, they are sailing. Their speed is pretty slow as well.
What's happened is we got further up towards the top of the course, that there is a little bit less wind, and it does feel like Finland is now looking a little bit better. But of course, you need to try and put that tack in before the speed bears before it fails. But yeah, it looks really light on that extreme right hand side now.
The wind did drop significantly.
I'm just trying to. Wow, that's very interesting.
That's not what we feel here, right?
No, so we're right up by the northern shore, and the courses closest to us have still got a strong pumping aura. So what you've got is a little bit of a fight with the sort of the land breeze as you get further off, as the day cools off, because the land breeze is a northerly and the thermal is a southerly. And Marchesny further up in Lake Garda actually gets a much stronger northerly than we would do here. But it looks like Poland is looking good now with quite low trapezing and just stay in the pressure, and it's a consistency game. So if they get just 2 points from this race, I'm sure they'll be very, very pleased. It'll be interesting on the replay to see where Hong Kong went. But
I will say for Finland as a leading boat, they should at least sort of lose cover their major opponent, which is Poland, instead of letting Poland sail a little bit more to the left.
Well, it's now a very big right-hand shift. I mean, the skiffs are going almost parallel to land, and it's hard. I mean, I appreciate that it's always easy to win races from the sofa. For those people just joining us, this is the final race for the women's two-person skiff. It's the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships. We're racing here in glorious Garda, doing a bit of catch up with races lost yesterday, and it's a game of snakes and ladders as the pressure is becoming a little bit more patchy. I'm Jon Emmett from the UK, joined by Lily Emmett from China, and we're just coming up to the windmill mark for the final time.
So this is race 11, which is also the final race of today.
Do we need to start looking at the points?
Probably not yet, because yesterday the skiff female only sailed one race, so the maximum races we can sail today, which is 4, meaning they're still missing 2 races, which they will do tomorrow.
There's going to be some tired. I was going to say there's going to be some tired crews. There's going to be some tired helms and crews, but Poland again is going higher and faster than their rivals. If you look at the overhead shot next time it comes up, you can see that they are just the most into the pressure. So not only did they have good boat speed, but actually they had really good positioning. And the cliche, boat speed makes you a tactical genius, that the rich just getting richer because they are flat wiring and a lot of the other boats aren't. And they've also positioned themselves directly to windward of the closest boats. So they've done a really, really good job after a very difficult opening day. Wow. They're not the only ones to have a difficult opening day. In the Ilka 6, the Italian male had a very difficult day, came back. It'll be interesting to see what happens today. And today is the penultimate day of competition. Really hope you're enjoying this live feed. We're going to hopefully go back to the 2-person mixed dinghy at some point, because we may get a champion crowned there. If you're enjoying the content, please do share, because people might not realise it's here live, and we're live today. We've been live all week, and we're live tomorrow, and we're having a lovely time, as I'm sure are Poland as they come in to do the final hoist and a jibe.
Wow.
That's so much easier when there's not other boats about.
So after 4 races today, Poland actually moved from the 3rd position to the 1st. And then, yeah, they're making the leading gap a little bit, not that big, so they still need to sail tomorrow's races. So we will know who's the winner for the female skiff tomorrow. And Poland is really sailing consistently in today, all 4 races.
So I can't help but look upwind at the single-handed dinghies and try and work out if I can see an orange flag on a start boat, and it looks like it's going to be a late day in the office for them, because I don't actually know if they've been able to start.
Yeah.
The situation is we've got 11 events taking place, so we're using all the lake.
Yeah, even though we have 5 race courses, but when you had the situation like yesterday, missing so many races, it is a lot of work for the PR or for principal race officer to finalize the starting line and how many races we could do for today to make it up so that we can still back on schedule.
Yeah, so good work from Tim Hancock and his team. If we look now at the boats going downwind, they're trapezing high, and it's getting softer. The wind is definitely getting softer, and we may actually see the teams put in an extra jibe just to be safe, because if you sail out of pressure downwind, actually that you can lose or gain much quicker than you do upwind. So really keeping an eye on that wind speed, because Poland now, they found a hole. They are absolutely parked, and they need to be looking at where the next pressure is coming from, because Finland, Ireland, Hong Kong, they're all on the charge.
Actually, looking ahead, the course area where the single-handed dinghy are racing, they probably have a bit more pressure left. Hope the wind can hold on to let the...
Well, I can see one boat at top of screen that's going 3 times the speed of Poland. I think Finland's been very sensible with their positioning, so whatever happens, they're very likely to stay in the top 3. But you've got to feel sorry for Poland, because they did exactly what any of us would have done at that mark. But somebody on the right-hand side looking downwind is absolutely launched.
Looking
so I wouldn't
at
worry.
The Dutch boat behind or the Hungary boat behind. They are in the pressure. Oh, this is quite painful to be in that Poland boat when the rest of the fleet are in the pressure, and then they are struggle a little bit. But they are doing the right thing. Stand up, stand tall, look for the pressure, and head towards it.
So it's Argentina who's absolutely launched. This is what I meant by doing a safety jibe. So when you see your rivals go one way, just like the Greek 470 in the earlier races, just positioning yourself between your rivals and the next mark. I mean, Poland's still going to have a good finishing position, but they will probably be frustrated with that. Having said that, Argentina need to make sure that the same doesn't happen to them. And I think the standout for the last couple of days has been Finland. It's almost like jibing on the whistle. Need to go high and make sure that they don't get rolled by Finland. And it looks like Hong Kong is piggy in the middle and is going to get squirted out the back. So it's really close racing. Poland coming across, back into pressure, back in the race. But I think Finland probably came out the best of that. I think Argentina is now too far.
Finland is having a really good day today. Their standing was well behind top 10, and then now they moved up to top 8. So by having another bullet.
But Finland is now parked, as is Hong Kong, handbrake on. And I'm surprised that Argentina doesn't jibe out to stay in the wind, or they're going to go into the same hole. But it snakes and and there's the hole.
Oh, it is super tricky.
So Poland is on the charge again. We call this snakes and ladders.
So sometimes when you would say, "Oh, you have,"
is Poland going to be able to roll Finland? Finland is super high. They've just closed the door.
Protect their lane to avoid Poland sailing to windward of them to.
And Hong Kong has put the handbrake on, but Poland and Finland, they're just going as high as they possibly can to get up to the wind, as is Hungary. You can actually see, if you look at the front of the sail, they're trying to go so high the front of the sail is luffing. And it's hard to tell from here whether they can get to the finish.
Finland getting the pressure. Just speed off.
So the wind has just become really unstable, and it's what we call a head out the boat day, and we know it's going to be like this in the late afternoon because that thermal effect comes. So I think they've actually abandoned the race because of that huge wind shift, and that's a shame because they were so close to the finish. But I think both Finland and Poland could be pretty confident. But the abandonment is just put there because of the large wind shift, and probably the fact that the wind dropped to under 5 knots for a significant period of time. If you look in the middle of the course, that's a big hole there.
Then that put the question whether they will be able to do another race.
Well, I think it's probably going to be time for the mixed.
There is time, but just the wind, whether the wind will hold.
I think they will give the mixed skiffs the opportunity to race.
That must be a quite challenging call for the race officer. Since we've done 4/5.
So let's go to a quick recap anyway. I was enjoying that so much. I think I'm even more disappointed than Finland that they cut it short. So Finland just started right next to the committee boat again, and I think they managed to gap off enough that they were one of the first to attack. Let's see if we can see. Here's Ireland. So Ireland was one of the most right boats, but they actually sailed into the lee of the mountains so much that they ended up in less pressure. So I think the standout team for me was Poland, who didn't take a lot of risk and just kept it simple, kept it safe, and would have been a very worthy second place.
So at this point, Finland's already leading the whole fleet, taking charge on the right-hand side, but not too far right. Though they overlay the mark, but they still got speed 2 foot. This is an interesting point, where as a skiff, it's really important for the crew work in terms of communication as well as balancing the boat, and then they really need that precise coordination to do all the boat maneuver, and boat handling is super important.
So I think Finland were probably very grateful to Hong Kong just putting the brakes on Poland there. I mean, everybody knew that it was going to be a jibe set, which it's a difficult manoeuvre, especially in a 29er. But if the pressure was definitely that side, it's obviously the best thing to do. And the situation coming into the mark, that Hong Kong actually got into second place because the whole fleet overstood.
Poland is leading the second windward mark.
After a commanding lead, but fell into a hole and just managed to get back in contact with the breeze, which was going from hard left to hard right with a hole in the middle. Argentina at one point was looking absolutely launched, but couldn't quite get back across. In the end, Finland probably played the game the best, but had to sail really high to get back into that pressure. And then, after all that, the race was abandoned, and we stand by to stand by.
It is a very tricky race area to master, so sailors need to look around, be cautious, and then now still having some extra patience for one more race.
Well, I would imagine some of the fleet are actually struggling to get back down to the starting area. Right. Okay, do you want to go through the rankings? We've still got the latest race not included, but this was the situation going into the final race.
After 9 races in the women's skiff, the current ranking is Poland leading, and followed by Argentina pair, and it is the USA sitting on 3rd overall.
So I think from what I've seen today, that's probably the Polish
so
team
if
leading.
This
that's
race
no surprise.
Hasn't abandoned, Finnish may well move up to top 3.
And of course Poland would have extended, but anything that happens after but
a
doesn't
bit
count.
Sorry for the Irish pair who dropped from the 1st to the 7th overall. It must be very tricky.
Well, the points are still super close, and I think Poland can take a lot of confidence at just how well they are sailing together. And now if we look at water, we can see it's looking pretty patchy. It's not raceable. It's clearly not raceable at the moment. So I'm so sorry, guys. I've been Jon Emmett from the UK. I've been joined by
Lily Shilija from China.
And we've really enjoyed hosting you, and that's the game. You know, the wind hasn't played ball, so we're going to call it a day. But thanks so much for joining us at the 2024 Youth Sailing World Championships here at glorious Lake Garda. That's the end of the show, and we look forward to welcoming you all tomorrow. If you haven't done so, please do like the feed, please do share it, and also subscribe on the channel. See you soon.